Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. Happy Friday. Welcome to my very special guest, Mr. Runkle of the Bailey. How you doing, man?
Oh, tired. I've been traveling all day because I'm going to go to a shooting event and then I'm going to go try to watch Depp v. Heard in person. So that'll be
So,
exciting if I can make that happen.
yeah, no kidding. You're going to have to go early.
Yes,
Very early.
I think the plan is 1 a.m.
Yeah, that's what I've been reading, that you have to be there by 1 a.m. roughly to get a spot in line. And then they like come by at some point, I think like around 5, and hand out numbers. And then I think you can leave for a little bit or something like that.
I think it was 7 a.m. They hand out the wristbands. I thought it was.
Okay. Yeah. I knew they
And
handed out something because I read in an article. Well, I read in an article, there was some lady who gets there at like 1 a.m. and then she gets her number and then goes and takes her kids to school and then comes back or something crazy.
yeah, I'm probably going to be sitting out there in like the most ugly casual outfit. It's actually probably going to be this hideous coat that I've now treated with a super hydrophobic coating. So if it rains, I'll be sitting there. But it is the ugliest thing. It is
Awesome.
amazingly ugly. And so after I get my wristband, assuming I get a wristband, I'm going to turn around and change into something that is perhaps a little more presentable, like a suit.
I wish you would have brought your Canadian robes for practicing. Hold on, we've got another guest. We've got another guest to join. This is a new one for me. Welcome to Law and Lumber. What's up, Rob?
Hey, Nick. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man. Welcome to the show.
Is the mic terrible? I haven't checked it at all today.
You sound fine.
I had to turn my audio up. People were complaining, so I don't know if it's too loud now or.
Oh no, you actually sound a little quiet to me. Hold on, oh, there we go. I might adjust you down now.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, you were still on someone else's. So StreamYard does this thing where if you have an account, like I assume all of us do, have at least the basic account, that will preserve your volume settings from the last stream you're on, no matter where you go. So if someone like had you turned way down and then you pop here, you're way down. So now I've got us all level, I think.
That is such a terrible setting.
Yeah. It's there. I'm done with them. Actually, this weekend, I'm probably going to do some streams playing around with like Restream.io or Melon, I think is another one, and see if any of them work better. Because I've been having tons of trouble with StreamYard. Right now, if I share my screen, my camera will freeze up. And it'll just be done. So it's like, okay, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. But anyway, to Law and Lumber, to Rob. So how's it going, man? You're kind of new to the whole YouTube gig, right?
Yeah, I'm tired. Like really tired. I don't know how you guys do this. It is so exhausting.
Yeah. I mean, you had such a long trip to monetization there.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. It's a little bit weird.
Yeah, your first video got it's over 500,000 views, right?
I think we're gonna break 600,000 today.
Awesome. That is so cool, man. I love seeing it. I love seeing I love seeing people like come in and succeed right away, because the hardest thing on YouTube is to get a single person to like look at your thing. And then now there's well, what's it like having 500,000 people look at your thing? I mean, that's like Ron Jeremy levels.
I mean, it's uncomfortable. Like it's Ron Jeremy levels. It's uncomfortable for a while. No, so it was crazy. I had people sending me that the Guardian article, the stupid article from the Guardian. Like people were sending the DMing it to me where it's calling out the video. I've got family and friends like texting me going, "Hey, by the way, is this you?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. How'd you get that?"
So wait a minute. So the Guardian hates your video. That's what happened.
they've compared it to a bunch of TikToks.
Oh, God, that's rude.
The Guardian is big mad that other people are talking about, law
Yeah.
and news.
Oh, dude, some of these, especially some of the British things I've been seeing on this trial. Well, because
Yeah.
since he sued over there and he sued the UK Sun, I almost feel like the entire country of England is rallying behind Amber Heard. At least the media company or the media portion of the country is rallying behind her, because everything I see, I'm like, nah, I'm not seeing that at all. Like, I saw these two guys and this one lady sitting there talking about how compelling Amber Heard's testimony was. Like, are you serious?
Yeah,
Like,
you clearly didn't watch it. You must have read the transcript.
yeah, it's compelling, and she's crying. She really didn't want to do this. She really didn't want to tell her story. I'm like, oh, didn't she? But she didn't. She doesn't present as someone who doesn't want to do this, except for the one time when she was crying fakely saying, I don't want to do this. But the rest of it is like, she's going to sit there and tell the story to the eager group of camp kids, right? Like that's the impression that I get. She's just been dying to tell this story in public and just trash his reputation.
Yeah, she got over that little breakdown in about 8 seconds, which is a record for criminal trials I've run. Usually when somebody has that kind of breakdown, it's like, we're going to have to take a break. It's going to be like, 30 minutes. We'll get everything sorted and then start up again. But yeah, no, that was just like, I don't want to do that. I'm good. Let's keep going. I'm going to bash
I
her.
mean, Runkle, it was worse than that. The worst moment of her testimony that day was she was having a breakdown and she puts her head in her hands and all of a sudden she looks up and, like, in the middle of crying, hands go up and she eyes the jury. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. Did I just see that?
Yeah, she does it twice in a row. Like she does a quick glance. She's like, and then she looks over and then she goes, oh,
Yeah.
oh. It's so good.
I'm crying. Are they buying it? I'm crying.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, Rob, can you since you're new to my channel, at least, can you kind of give me and the audience a little overview of who you are, what you do, why you decided to be on YouTube? I mean, I know it's a recent decision, but what the hell are you thinking?
And, I don't know. The last one, can I defer that one for a little bit?
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm a domestic relations litigator and a bankruptcy attorney that practices consumer bankruptcy, and I practice in Northern Virginia in Fairfax County. So quite literally within this county where this trial is being held. So what ended up happening, and I've been practicing for going on, I think there's going to be year 11 or 12. You start losing count after a little while. But when this trial started, I started watching your guys' streams, both you, Nick, and also Legal Bites. And the first day of the trial, you guys were going nuts on the judge. Why is she sustaining these objections? And I reached out. I was like, take it easy on the judge. I know this judge. You got to chill out with her. You have to hit her with persuasion, and you got to come in. And I kept on watching the trial because both you guys kind of said, hey, let me know if you want to come on. And I kept on watching the trial. I was like, do I want to be a part of this insanity? And it just kept happening. So I was like, you know what? I'll come on one day. I came on one day, and then I'm watching the trial in the background, and it's just, you're seeing either the chat get things wrong, the media get things wrong, or sometimes our fellow panelists, we have disagreements, and you start getting into these debates, and all of a sudden it's like 3 hours later and you're going, what did I do with my day? And it just became so much fun. And then you start to see how the media is portraying it, and you just want to fight that thing back. And at some point in time during Amber Heard's testimony, and I think I was on stream when I was watching it, she goes and testifies about the December 15th incident. And she says, well, I was on the bed and he was on top of me. His knee was on top of me, and I could feel his foot trying to gain purchase. And that's when the bed broke. Right. And I think on stream, I immediately said, by the way, that's bullshit. Like, based on, So for the chat doesn't know, I'm a full-time attorney, but woodworking is my passion. So I have a shop in my house, and I go down there and that's my happy place. So I explained to everyone on Legal Bites' channel kind of why the bed wouldn't have broken that way. And then they started yelling at me to get off of the stream and to go make a video. made the video, and then we are here 5 days later, and I've somehow got 35,000 followers and over 720,000 views on the videos.
That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. It's I want to call it a Cinderella story, but that would be, that'd be weird and wrong. I think that'd be one of the things you'd have to criticize me on. So wait a minute. So are you telling me that you had disagreements with other lawyers?
Shocking. And we could be civil about it and have debates? No way.
That's been one of my favorite things about the YouTube and Twitter journey so far is I'll get into spats with, I mean, I don't know how, I'm generally cordial, but I'll get into spats with lawyers on Twitter or whatever. And they'll act like, well, this is the way it is. And I'll just say, nah. And they're like, like, what do you mean? Like, you do this every day, don't you? Like, you go in and you're convinced very firmly in your argument, and then someone else has a different argument than you. They take the same look at the same facts and the same law, and they just shockingly come to a disagreement. It's almost like we have an entire system built around it, but some people just cannot deal with that at all.
It's
Probably.
It's been really interesting watching people's reaction, especially lawyers who haven't been watching things. Not so much on this one because they're seeing like the weight of public opinion on this one, but like Rittenhouse, there were so many people who it's like, you haven't been watching this trial, have you? Because if you had, you'd have different thoughts.
Right. Yeah. It's like you said, Rob, the media coverage of this, you watch it and you just want to scream. Like it's like, no. Some intern read a transcript or had an opinion and handed you a stack of paper and you read through it and you said, okay, this is my thoughts on this now. I made this. And then you come on and you start just spewing off this nonsense about Amber's story or whatever, ignoring the fact that there are massive holes in the story. She doesn't act like an abuse victim in the slightest, and has not through the entire trial, like just passively watching her and having any experience with anybody who's been through, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, any of the things that even quarters of what she has alleged. And you see completely different people. And it's like, either you are a completely soulless machine that is programmed to appear, or I'm not buying your story. And man, that is,
it can be both, man.
So Nick, if you want a funny story, DUI guy is in the back, or DUI guy's asking for a link, but Runkle is actually in Virginia. He's going to be crashing at Shea Law and Lumber, like while we're going to this trial. And the DUI guy apparently is also going to be joining me in line, waiting to get into this trial. So odds are Amber Heard's going to recognize one of us. We'll see what happens.
I'm sending DUI guy the link right now so he can pop in.
That'll just be amazing if they.
He's got to get on Twitter. Oh, I'm gonna make fun of all three of you if I see you in the gallery. Like that's gonna be true. Like there's no way around it. It's gonna happen. I'm like, I know those guys.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair game. And I'll, at some point in time, look up at the monitor because I'll probably do one of these, like just a.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, the big question I'm going to have when you get back is, how does the courtroom smell? Because I have a feeling it smells like cats and wine.
Nervous sweat.
Hopefully it doesn't smell like wine grumpy.
Oh, no. No, that would be not. That'd be ungood. Double plus ungood.
Here's hoping Heard's got a fresh diaper and.
Well, the chat is asking what I'm drinking today, and I don't like having price tags on these things. 1 second. Oh, good. It's coming off easy. So my internet went down last night, and the town, somehow my power stayed on, but the town that I was in was completely out of power still today. It's nuts. But I'm drinking Angel's Envy finished rye. This is one of the best bottles around $100 you can get. that there is. So to the chat, if you're looking for like, this is a great Christmas or birthday or retirement present for people. Like when you don't want to spend $1 million, but you want to spend a little more than like 20. This is a great whiskey for people. Rob, are you a whiskey drinker?
I'm whiskey. I like old fashioned is my drink of choice.
Oh, nice. That's a solid choice.
I tend to just drink liquor straight because, well, probably have an issue. But that being said, let's kind of get into this. So the way I've got this structured is like a Q&A format for the chat. I want to get real interactive with the chats that come in. Probably going to try and read them and address them as they come in. And if you guys have anything to say or contribute, please feel free to do so. If you want to take it in a different direction too, we can go anywhere just as we go. Pretty much all of my shows have no format. So that's what we're sticking with today. But Donkey Hody sent a donation. Thank you for that. That was before the stream. And it looks like the stream killed whatever message that you wanted to send. So RIP. Burnt Raw Toast says, hey, Nick, your speech about quitting smoking from a couple days ago got me to quit. Hey, really? Haven't had one since Wednesday at 8 a.m. Thanks, man. Could you do a small recap of the speech for others? Thanks. Well, I think I was probably hammered, so I don't know if I remember all of it. What's up, DUI guy? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
That's a great intro, by the way.
Yeah. I think I was probably hammered. Let me bring on my lawyer, the DUI guy. No. No, I never drive while intoxicated. I do not. No, I don't remember what it was, man. I'll have to find it and clip it because I do remember kind of going off on it. But if you are a smoker, you got to get that out of there. You got to stop it. Don't do it. You are bigger. You are bigger than that tiny. Oh wait, it was about tiny white phalluses that you're putting in your mouth. You are bigger than that. You are much bigger than that. You can quit if you want to quit. Just stop putting those things in your mouth. You can do it. You can do it. Next, Capitalist Pig says, I would like to hear the smoking rant as well. Well, okay, I'll clip it and I'll play it tonight on the show. I just got to find it. I don't remember where it was, but it probably sounds like it was on Tuesday. Candace Marie says the Cenk Joe Rogan fight in grooming today is highly breaded. Wait, what? I have not seen that. Donkey Hody, first time ever super chatting, and I effed up the first one. Go me. Found you through Friday Night's Tights Crew, and you've been the most entertaining channel on YouTube. Wanted to say thanks to you in this chat. Hey, thank you. All of these have nothing to do with Johnny Depp. This is great. Squizgar 2322. We'll take a break in a second and talk Depp specifically. Hey, Nick, can I get a toast for my favorite toaster that broke? It toasted bread into toast, and that was the toastedest toast I've ever toasted, but it is now, unfortunately, toast. To your dead toaster, good sir. At least it wasn't a burial at sea. Cheers. Okay. All right, let's talk about this, though. So you guys have all been watching the trial. What has been the most WTF moment for you? I mean, well, Rob, you had the bed thing. But has there been anything else that has really stood out to any of you in particular about this case from any of the testimony, any of the decisions? I got beef with you too, Rob. We're going to talk about that. But
the broken glass in the bottle, well, for me.
Yeah.
Like I tried to do an experiment and my video did not, my GoPro sucked. So I didn't actually get the video. But like smashing a bottle and the kind of glass it leaves, bottles are curved and they leave curved pieces of glass that point upwards. It's different than like window glass. So if you watch, Die Hard and he's running across the shattered window glass, that'll wreck your feet. But bottle glass is even worse. This whole notion that she's being dragged bodily back and forth in bare feet across this broken glass. And then she's like, oh yeah, I just popped some sleeping pills, had a nap, woke up, made coffee, and then the next day I'm off dancing. I'm like, no,
yeah,
you're going to hospital. You are like, and she's helping them look for the finger, and nobody notices that she's got to have been bleeding everywhere.
What are you talking about, Runkle? Broken bottles don't break in horrific monstrosities of shapes. Not at all.
Yeah. But
I think it was you, Nick, who made the whole joke about how she appears to be healing like Wolverine.
yeah,
That one moment she's like, "Oh yeah, I've been severely injured," but the next day I was fine. You know, photos show like maybe just one little mark like under her eye, which there was an argument to be made that that is a birthmark on top of everything else. So
well, and I love she talks about lacerations on her arms and feet from the Australia incident, and then they've actually entered into evidence a picture of the laceration, and it's her holding up her forearm, and there's like the faintest little white scratch that goes down. Like I could take my nail and just do that, and it would produce the same thing. Well, if I didn't have hairy arms, it would produce the same type of scratch, and it's like that. That's not a glass laceration. That's not a laceration at all, but that's not even a glass scrape. I mean, it slices you, it cuts into your skin. It is not a scratch on the surface. But yeah, for reference to the chat, I dropped this bottle of Whistle Pig, which was a sad day, on the streets of Tampa, Florida. It was like dropping a PlayStation 5, to put it in perspective. But yeah, so this is what it looks like. It just fell straight down, hit the ground, and shattered. And glass on bottles does not break in like a clean fashion. And this would tear you apart, whether it's going inside of you or touching the sides of you. If you if I were to stick my hand on this, I would be severely wounded very, very quickly. That was a huge one for me.
Well,
as well.
She had to be led to the notion that the bottle went inside her. And, she was saying she was worried it was broken. She didn't know if it was the broken one. I'm like, how do you not know in the moment? Like, I've been calling her the Terminator because, like, if you're sitting there going, I have so little sensation that I can't tell if this is broken or not. I'm like, this is not plausible in the least.
She coated the inside of her lady bits in titanium, so she can't feel anything. It's perfect. No, because it's crazy. And then when they get to the picture and she's like, yes, that's the bottle, the Maker's Mark, and I just saw this for the first time 2 days ago or whatever. It's like, okay. So now you know what bottle it was. You didn't before. I just have, it was so very convenient. That she remembered that this is a bottle. And people are pointing out, and I think I even pointed out at first, but I've thought about this. I don't know when that picture was taken. I don't know if that picture was actually taken after the incident or before the incident or what, but people were talking about how it's Maker's Mark. It's a wax. There's wax on the bottleneck. It's pretty thick. And that would probably have peeled back or peeled off in some way. It didn't look like that had happened. I would simply suggest that if that bottle went inside someone, it would do severe damage. Like that wax would cut the sensitive bits inside of a person quite a bit. It'd be very traumatizing. But it's possible that picture was taken before the incident. I have no idea.
And they haven't turned over any metadata, so it's possible it was taken like yesterday.
Right, that's true. We've got another guest to join the stream.
Hello. Hey. I know these guys.
Right.
What's up, Mike?
Oh man, we got an echo.
Hello. I know these guys.
Do you have the stream on?
Yep. I killed it. Sorry.
Okay. I think it's done.
Is it gone now?
Yeah, I think it's done. Okay,
there we
perfect.
Go. Sorry.
Hey, welcome, man. Nice to have.
Yeah.
Nice to meet
That was
you.
a great entrance with the echo. Yeah, but it's nice to be here. I've never been on Recato Law.
Oh, you've not. You're new to me. Nice to meet you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I am an attorney in Chicago, do personal injury and workers' compensation, that kind of stuff. Stuck in the Midwest with you, brother.
Very cool. How did the storms hit you yesterday or today?
No, it's been beautiful here.
Oh, wow.
It's like 85 and sunny. It is some kind of nice.
Dude, last night we had 11 inches of rain and 80 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts going through. It was wild. It was wild. Well, welcome to the show. We're just kind of getting into this talk about the Depp and Heard trial. There's We've also got Sean, potentially criminal here. Now we've
Hello,
got like
hello.
this
What's up,
full-on
homie?
panel going.
Yeah.
Welcome, man. How are you today, Sean?
Doing all right. Got done with the Redonda Vought. She was the nurse who accidentally killed a lady and got prosecuted for it. She had her sentencing today, so just got done with that.
Did she deserve what she got?
No, but that breaks down into the philosophical areas of like, does this serve justice? What should have happened to her? She got diversion ultimately because the court can award it apparently in Tennessee, so she should
That's
probably
good.
complete it.
That's a rough case.
Version is
Yeah, but that was the weirdest sentencing I've ever seen. Like the victims, like when like somebody that was her coming up to speak on her behalf, or the victims, you could cross-examine them. That was really weird.
Oh wait,
about
you
things. You could
Wait.
cross-examine. So
could
yeah,
during sentencing you
Yes.
could cross-examine
Yes.
the people speaking for.
yes,
That's weird.
That's
Yeah.
really weird.
it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. I didn't know you could do that. But I'm glad you can't do that in Ohio.
Yeah, no, that's very that. Okay, that's awkward. I don't know. I didn't even know what to do with that. Like
Yeah, I
people
know.
just get
Sure
to come
you're-
up, they say their piece, and then
Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this the case where the nurse killed somebody, but it was by accident?
Yeah, and she immediately, like, as they're, like, she's coding out and dying, she's like, oh, by the way, oops, I did that.
What's so horrible is obviously that's a horrible situation, but you get on a panel with a bunch of attorneys like this. I look at that and think, how do you have criminal liability? Civil all day long, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Yeah.
But
it
you
got
don't want to say anything because you're like, I don't know. There's
Yeah.
someone knows this a lot better than me.
yes. Well, it got really bad because the state was arguing certain things should have been sentenced for enhancement wise, and they argued that one of the charges she was convicted of was abuse of a patient, and they claimed she had a position of trust and she abused it, but she committed, and they charged her with negligent homicide. So like, how do you negligently abuse power? Like, you can't. Like they were just trying to round the score on her. It was really the Davidson County District Attorney's Office. You guys are a bunch of cocksuckers. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, get
you
them.
heard it here first.
Get 'em.
Yes.
Coming in hot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I ever go to Tennessee, get at me.
Well, that's what
That's Nashville, Davidson
I've-
County.
Yes, it is.
I've had in a different context had issues with the Kim Potter thing felt similar to me. It's like I don't see how you get to criminal liability with this case because I cannot see the criminal negligence. I cannot see the reckless disregard for the danger that is consciously created. How do you get there? And it sounds like something similar in this nurse case, but yeah, I mean that's the way it goes. Did you watch the whole thing? Did you catch closing arguments or?
I'd watched bits and pieces of the trial because it was going on while another trial was going. But it was clear she admitted fault. She admitted to the State Board of Nursing right away. I mean, this was an ongoing thing for a couple of years. It's just her hospital covered it up to avoid any issues with the Medicaid funding. That's the reason why it took so many years for anybody to find out about it. But she was always
and the
upfront.
liability carrier.
Yeah, well, they always pay out. That's the big.
Yeah, they're going to pay out on that for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they already did. But yeah, no, I think this lady was very much like Kim Potter. I mean, she did her job, and airline pilots always every once in a while auger into the ground with a plane load of people. I mean, it happens.
Well, luckily, most of the time they just die, so they're hard to prosecute. Very
Yes.
difficult.
Yes.
I went
Yes.
dark real fast.
What's
Yeah.
There's no pulled punches here. Speaking of no pulled punches,
So-
what's up to the lawyer you know? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? What's up, fellas?
Hey.
Hello. Until now, you were the lawyer I didn't know, but now it rings
Now
true.
it's all changed. It's all different.
Well, so yeah, we again, not to get too far off into things, but of course, I'm glad you informed me about the trial. I saw you were streaming it, and I have had no time. I'm dumb. I was going to do a whole bunch of like daytime streams this week, and instead, I booked myself on like everybody else's show all throughout the week. And so I was doing like 3 streams most days, including mine, and but never on my channel. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this is not the smartest plan, but yeah, I was very interested when I saw, and especially I saw Rob, you say that this was very concerning for criminal defense attorneys in the chat. But yeah, we're talking Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So let me get to Mike, since I haven't really spoken with you before. What's been your biggest revelatory or WTF moment in this trial so far? How much have you watched? This is my first time getting to talk to you. So
Yeah, I watched a fair amount of it over on Legal Bites. Rob's been over there. Ian's been over there. It's just her testimony is so bad. I looked at this and I thought he's gonna win the. In my estimation, he's going to restore his career. People are going to see her for what she is, but he's got no shot. And she was so bad on the stand so far that I think he actually can win the defamation case.
Yeah.
And that's saying something just because the burdens they have.
Yeah, I agree, because and I talked about that early on in the case. For people who've been watching over here on my channel, is like defamation, especially for a public figure. And Johnny Depp is unquestionably a public figure. He's one of the biggest movie stars in the world. It's really, really difficult because you have this actual malice standard, and normally actual malice almost requires you to produce like a note, a text, something of the person saying, I know this is a lie, but I'm going to do it anyway, or an admission on the stand. However, you can get there in a he said, she said, which her counsel is setting up. Everything is a he said, she said. Her counsel is actually making the actual malice case probably as well as it can be made. If you've got a he said, she said, and there's only two people, then logic would dictate that if one of them is purporting to be a victim, but that isn't actually true, that they have knowledge that they're not the victim. Like that they have actual knowledge that they were not being beaten. And if that's the case, then you can get to actual malice. And since they've got a jury, you don't get to split hairs with a legal decision like you would have with a judge or some jackhole attorney trying to do an analysis of this. You've got real people going, I just don't believe you, or I just do believe you. And that's going to be the make or break of the case, I think. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I thought this is going to be really hard, but he's got a jury at least. And now I'm like, I'm hovering still around 50-50, but and I know some people have thrown out like a 75% number. Robert Barnes and Legal Mindset have both suggested a 75% victory. I think that's a little bit aggressive for me still, but I do think he's got a shot.
And by the way, I tried to do some research on this, and I don't know if any of you guys know. I was under the impression that Virginia is like the rest of the country, where if you have a civil case for more than an X number of dollars, in this case obviously we're well above that, you get a jury of 12 in civil cases. Now in my research I have found, first of all, not only is there a jury of 5 hearing this whole case, according to a couple of sources that I was able to find,
it's 7.
Is it 7? Holy cow.
It's 7, yeah.
7. Okay, still very, very low considering the rest of the country. Like here in Kentucky we get 12. You'll have at least maybe
not in Florida
with a couple alternates.
Florida, you get 6, right?
Florida, you get 2 people.
Yeah, we get 6, baby.
We do 6, but only by agreement in Illinois. I mean, you get 12 if you demand it.
In Virginia, or can they get like a 6-1 vote and still?
It has to be unanimous.
Unanimous. 7.
That's why I wanted to get in front of.
And on a case like this, we're having alternates. We're having 2-3 alternates on a 6-week case. Hell yes. Yeah. The judge is assuming you're going to lose 1 or 2 along the way.
They've already lost 2.
Oh yeah, they've had a bunch of alternates. I mean, they've lost a couple.
On a case this high profile, you have to assume you're going to lose some just to them being idiots. Like, doing an interview with press.
It's almost like a criminal case, you guys. We have basically a civil case masking itself as a criminal case because to me, at least, again, because of my familiarity with the civil law here in Kentucky, here we just need a 75% vote. You get 12 that finally go to deliberate, and then 9. If you get 9 out of 12 that agree, it doesn't matter what the other 3 say. So I was basing my judgment about Johnny's chances of winning based on Kentucky law. And now that thank you for clarifying. So we got 7 and it's got to be unanimous. I am dropping my vote below 50% for Johnny's chances of winning. Personally.
Yeah. I have a feeling.
I still don't know, man, because
He's going to win
why
in the public eye, in my opinion. But the case, I don't know anymore, guys. I'm changing my vote.
I just think they're going to hate her so much. She's so. But I mean, I don't want to give a number until I actually see their faces. That's why I'm going to be there.
Like followed up with some? I've been reading some stuff over the last week because I mean, there's so many articles it's impossible to keep up. But there was one that really struck me that said even if Amber Heard appears absolutely horrifically on the stand and botches the entire testimony, she still has that ounce of believability because of her being a female, because of her being potentially a victim in all of this, that even if she gets the least amount of credence to her testimony, that may be enough to at least make sure that Johnny doesn't win. And that really struck me. And now that's why I'm having kind of like a change of heart.
Go ahead, Peter.
So are you saying that you think he's going to lose, or are you saying you think it's going to be a hung jury?
I think it's going to be a hung jury.
Okay,
because
I don't think
unanimity factor.
I think it's going to be
he's
tough.
He's not going to win money, is basically what I'm trying to say.
A hung jury is a definitive win for him in the grand scheme of things.
I said that like the first or second day, and someone's like, nah. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like a hung jury means that a good portion of people don't believe it. I think that's enough to go by.
I don't say it's one super woke person in Northern Virginia to sit on the jury. I don't know how Heard's team didn't pull that off, honestly.
They did. And see, this is why, like, I'm prepared to fight with DUI guy, but I'm not gonna because I learned, and we'll see how many viewers we lose when I say this. There's at least one, if not two, Indian guys on the jury, and
that's a good thing.
That can go either way, though.
I don't think so. I don't know, man. You got a pretty blonde woman.
I'm a divorce attorney in Northern Virginia that represents in Loudoun County, which is massive Indian culture. So when they hear the word abuse and they hear the word women throwing the abuse around in that culture, I don't know why, and I don't know how many viewers we're going to lose when I say this. I don't know why, but that word is thrown back and forth in that household like you would not believe. And then when you ask them to define what it is, they just can't understand it. But as a guy sitting on that jury, I guarantee you if he's married, he's had his wife yell at him saying, "You're abusing me." And him in his mind, he's going, "I never did anything like that." So I don't think that's a bad thing for Johnny Depp.
I just worry because my experience on internet chat rooms, it's always like, don't get me wrong.
That trumps everything, Nick.
Trust me. Look, I love Indian dudes. They're hilarious. I used to, when I worked at Wells Fargo, the guys would come in from India to work at Travelers Insurance, and they would come in, open up bank accounts. I love those guys. They're great. Love to talk to them. But I don't know, man. I think the simp factor may be a little strong, and that's what's got me concerned on that one.
Here's what I'll say though. Of all the trials that I have done myself or been a part of or worked on, I've only had one hung jury ever, and it was on a criminal case, and everything here has to be unanimous. So I always wonder that, and I always think, like, how do you get 6 people to agree to the same thing, to the same number? Like, they got to agree to the dollars and cents. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So unanimity is more common in juries than anything else in the world. So while normally you would think the 7 of us sitting here, because we don't have to, we're never going to agree on anything. But when they're sitting there and they know their job is to agree on a verdict, they think we've got to pick a side. And if we all don't agree on a side, we're going to be here for it. They don't think, well, you know what we could do? We could just disagree the whole time, and then we all get to go home and it's a mistrial and we don't have to make a decision. They don't actually think that that's a possibility for the majority of time they're deliberating.
I want to push back very mildly. In this
I can't get Nick to even agree with that. Okay, I can't even get one guy to agree.
But only because in this case, the judge has indicated that she wants a decision from the jury prior to Memorial Day. And Friday
is that what she said, that she wants a decision,
weekend,
or she wants it to be to them?
Friday is closing arguments.
Yep.
So Friday, the deliberations start after closing arguments Friday. And then I got the impression that they will be going until a decision is made, but before Memorial Day. So I would agree with you normally, but if that's the case and they see a tunnel at the end of the road, there's that one holdout, and he goes, "Look, if I can just hang till Monday, we're hung jurying this thing, at 8 p.m. Sunday, then that's how it goes.
I don't know. I think if I'm Johnny's team, I'm not cool with that. Like I'm objecting to that, and that's my first issue for appeal, that the judge is giving a deadline that they have to decide after 6 weeks of listening to testimony and a week off in between.
I don't know if the deadline is firm, but I know that when the judge talked about this coming week, she said, or with the week break, she said, okay, when we come back, that I told you we would have this thing done before Memorial Day. So I don't know that she said it's a deadline, but I think there's an implied deadline there of before Memorial Day.
But the only leverage the judge has on the jury is to hold them. I mean, what are you going to do? Okay, fine. You guys took too long. I'm going to, put my own judgment in there. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. So, the judge can declare a mistrial or hold them. Those are the two buttons they have to press at that point. So,
but she's definitely incentivizing. Like, she's incentivizing a quick turnaround. She is not going to let them sit on it for like a week, is what she's indicating.
I'd be telling them, listen, you guys, I'm going to let you, be stuck for 2 weeks. If that's, come to a decision.
If you want to get back to your family by Memorial Day, you'll have a decision. Otherwise, you're going to be here.
Yeah. We're going to sequester you. You're just going to be stuck in a hotel room with no cable, and see if you can make some deal, see if you can come together and come to an agreement.
Yeah. Well, we'll see that. I think if you've got jurors who are under the impression that they're going to get out of there by Monday, no matter what, and the judge is willing to do that, that's the occasion where I would offer the mild pushback. If the judge is going to hold them, I agree with you. I think the strength of personality in jury rooms tends to bring about a verdict in the majority of cases. So we'll see.
Have you seen that a lot, Nick, on the cases you've been following here? Because I've never had that happen to me, but is that happening in like high profile cases where the judge gives a deadline like that?
No.
That's
the closest we had was Curtis Reeves' trial down there in Florida, where the judge said, you're here until you decide. Like, no going to a hotel, no breaks or anything. They had to come to a decision before they left the courthouse. And
no water, no bathroom. Yeah, there's a bar in Chicago, probably all over, where they put you in the basement, and they said, okay, drinks are free until someone needs to go to the bathroom, and that's what this reminds me of.
Yeah, and let me
push back on that for a second, just because this judge at the beginning of the trial, every single person on this panel, every one of you guys was saying, there's no way this thing is going 6 weeks. It's going to go longer. It's going to go longer. It's going to go longer. And I was adamant. I said, with Judge Ascarati, she runs that courtroom like a freaking, that is boom, 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 boom.
Does she always time the sides, Rob?
Yeah.
That's why
really?
I haven't heard that since mock trial in law school.
The judges on there's actually a judge in JDR in circuit in JDR in that courthouse who actually has a physical chess clock.
Oh my god!
And will actually do the tap.
That's crazy.
It's something about that practice, but that courtroom and that courthouse runs like a machine. It does. So when they say 6 weeks, and she's been reinstilling that impression in the attorneys the entire time, you gotta believe the jury's picking up on that too. So the jury is sitting there going, okay, we can do this. We're going to do this.
I like that. I like that the holding them to 6 weeks. I mean, we have judges that do that too, but the plaintiff always gets more time. Like, I would never agree to split time 50-50 with the defense on a case. I think that you have the burden. I don't know what the case law would be on that, because we don't have any here that I'm aware of that actually says like you have to have equal time.
What about with the countersuit though? Since it's a countersuit, does that give them the equal time? Or
I'm assuming that's where they got it, but that's why I haven't heard a single word about that countersuit. I feel like,
but now it incentivizes to just countersue for whatever just to get equal time. You know what I mean?
I feel like at this point the countersuit is they put it in there in the hopes that things would go differently than they are, and now they're just like, that's just not going to happen. Like, we don't need to do that.
Oh, I mean, I think you do it. I if I represented Amber Heard, I'd file a counterclaim. Absolutely. I mean, I don't think you're going to collect on it, but I think you do it because it just shows that you believe yourself.
You got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
To Salinan in the chat, he says, look at Rittenhouse. Everyone outside the case said guilty, but woke or not, we got the not guilty. I didn't say guilty. most of the people on the panel didn't say guilty. We feared that there could be some guilty verdict coming out, and I think actually most of us were worried that there would be a hung jury. None of us that were on my show, at least, thought that he was going to be found guilty, but we thought there could be like one or two jurors trying to pull a compromise verdict and get to a not guilty, or get to a hung jury. But we were pretty positive that the law and the facts favored him so heavily that it was going to be not guilty.
I actually think more people thought the Curtis Reeves one was going to be guilty, and then flipped versus Rittenhouse.
Yeah, I went into Curtis Reeves thinking guilty. And then as the facts came out in the testimony, I was like, oh, yeah, no way. And then the best part was that the state just did not make their burden in their closing argument at all. And it was like, what were you guys thinking? I feel like somebody could have delivered a better one than he did. But anyway, let me grab some more of these chats here. Gunnar says, what? An RTX 3090 Ti? I wanted to see Johnny Depp. Wait, what? Ginger Ninja, Runkle, that early, you might need to light the Ellendale to navigate your way there. Seal Hunter says, Nick, disloyal shyster lawyer. Hold on, let me see if I can find some specific Amber Heard Johnny Depp questions.
Hey, Runkle, did you make it to America yet or not yet?
I am sitting in Virginia. This is an Airbnb. So that,
nice.
That background art is not mine. That belongs to the Airbnb.
I was about to say, it goes great with your Live, Laugh, Love decal on the wall.
There isn't that I can see a Live, Laugh, Love, but there is some other sort of
gather, blessed.
Live simply.
This is a straight up fraternity party. I like it.
It's feeling like it's going that way. Sooner or later, if anybody gets nominated for the Supreme Court, they're going to play this video.
Oh, God.
How many of you guys are I saw a couple people are going to actually sit in at the trial. Oh, awesome. Rob, you're there, right?
Yeah.
Ish?
And so
Okay.
it's the reports on when these lines start showing up is crazy. Like the sheriff's office stuck a note or started postering around the courthouse. Like, we will ticket if you're there before 1 a.m. You'll get ticketed with loitering. But then I'm just worried that people are just waiting off property to go and sprint to get there. I have no freaking clue what we're
Do
going
you
to
guys have a lawyer entrance?
They're not allowing us to use it that early, and they've restricted fifth floor access.
Also, my bar card probably doesn't work.
No,
here.
not you. Rob would have to sneak you in potentially.
Law Society doesn't exist.
You'd
in
have to keep your
America.
mouth
Sorry,
closed
buddy.
too, or else you're dead.
Just you just got to wear one of those cloaks and put it over yourself, and they'll be like, no,
You
we're
look like
just
a rock.
carrying this boulder in. It's fine.
It's a rock.
I was just picturing Rob like wheeling a suitcase. It's like, what's the
just
deal?
a big one.
Well, that
A bunch
goes to
of
trial
boxes.
next week
legal
too.
mail.
Yeah,
And then
I
Rob
can't
was
open
like,
it.
which way's to the stairs? They're like, oh, the elevator's right there. He's like, nah, I'm taking the stairs on this one.
I'm sending an invite to Andrea Burkhardt as well. I don't know if she's around.
We need her. We need her bad.
We need her help.
We do.
We got long
Runner
hair, but that's it.
Runner Brack says Mr. Smith's 12th grade government class reporting in, and then he says, "Bitch, be crazy." So, what's up to the 12th graders out there? Don't worry, we'll only get a little spicy. Nancy Focus says, when I was a kid, I stepped on a broken glass and got a nasty cut on the side of my foot. 5 stitches and 3 weeks on crutches. 30 years later, still have a scar. So yeah, that glass story, I think she went way too far. What do you guys think about this? If I'm Amber's attorney and we're talking about her testimony, I would suggest that she actually keep the details kind of vague and that they not be sensational in any way. Johnny and I got into an argument in Australia. He hit me, right? Like he hit me, he struck me, pushed me against the wall. I went upstairs. I don't know what happened after that. Those types, assuming it's the truth, right? Because first of all, I believe what she did on the stand was lie, and I'm running from that premise that I believe her story is a lie. But I think if there is some truth to the story, it's much more along the lines of he pushed me into the wall. He punched the wall next to me. I was very scared and intimidated. He was screaming and out of his mind. He had been not drinking for a while and now he was drinking. And I was very afraid for my safety. I got out of there as fast as possible. I think she tells those stories and she wins.
It's the simple defense. It's the simple defense.
Well,
That's what she should have got. She could even use Johnny's own words against him because he admits to grabbing her by the shoulders and putting her on the bed. And she could say, well, it didn't feel like he was just moving on the bed. He grabbed me by the shoulders, threw me. Difference of perception of what happened. The headbutt that he admits to and says was accidental. She could say headbutted me in the nose. Again, all assuming it's the truth and this is her opinion and that's how she feels. What's up, Kurt?
Hey, Kurt.
But that's what I would have gone with is the more simple defense, using his own words, the picture she has of the bruising on her arm and the bruising on her face. At least it all lines up. And it doesn't seem like to me, the whole thing is she seems like she's creating this huge burden for herself that now she has to prove.
Yep.
Absolutely. You can see the client management problems they're having because there's like these two divergent arguments they make. They start off with like, listen, she's got, a right to say her, her thoughts on this. And, it's going to be she's technically correct, that there was abuse and they're going with that. And then you see her come in and she's just like, how they're going on that subtle technical argument that is actually a real winner. I'm just going to go crazy. Like, and Nazis invaded and they were all wearing like Depp lapel pins. And it's like such weird story. And there's I did a video on it. There's a moment in when she's talking about the mirror, where I think you can see her lawyer like have a mental gear change, because I think that there's a moment where she was expecting to say, oh yeah, here's the order in which stuff was written because I was there and I wrote stuff. But instead she's like, no, I didn't write anything. And she goes, oh, well, and she sort of swallows the question she was about to ask, and then she asks a different one. And I'm like, I think Amber was lying to her lawyers there, or telling them a different story. And then her, great credit to the lawyer if that's what was going on, because she did a really good job changing gears. But you could see her sort of swallow the question. And I mean, why would you go and say which thing was written before the other if your witness couldn't tell you that? Right? If your witness doesn't know because they say that they didn't write anything. Right. I think she's just a terrible client. I think she's running the show way too much because, of course, how do you tell her this is stupid? And, and I think she's trying to run this as a PR thing. And she's going to lose the case, trying to win the PR thing, and she's going to lose the PR thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. It looks like Rottenborn had a very smart, in my opinion, strategy to go after the defamation on the technical legal aspects, convince the jury that this is her opinion and perception of the situation and a mix of absolute truth. Like, well, she did stand up against domestic violence. She believes she was a victim of domestic violence. We know that violence can be verbal. It can be physical as well, and that she is clearly a victim here. And when she stood up, the industry came after her. That's what the statements say. That's what they don't want you to know, is that that's all the statements have ever said. And they were not concerned with suing over anything else that's been said about Mr. Depp, because he is trying to get revenge against Miss Heard and just run on that. But here's the law in Virginia about how defamation works. And we've had this law for a really long time. It's been worked out by judges. It's gone all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And this is what they have to prove, and they can't do it. And that's the way that it seems like he wanted to run the case. And then you've got Amber Heard saying, nope, I want to get into this argument over domestic violence, which I think was a really terrible choice for her.
He's not going to say that about me. I'm going to say it about him. That's kind of what it feels like,
Yeah.
I don't care how much my retainer is. I'm not letting her throw vodka bottles at me, so I'll let her say what she wants.
What's shaking, Kurt? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, yeah, I couldn't agree more with all this. This definitely echoes a lot of what I've been saying as well on the commentary. Like, she had me pretty well. She had me as an overstatement. I was favorable to her, or at least sympathetic to her in some sense, until day 2 of her testimony. Because even on day 1 of her testimony, You know, it was all right. But then she came along and just makes these grandiose claims that aren't backed. A more subtle version would have worked. Even more subtle physical versions would have worked. I mean,
Yeah.
we have some bruising, we have some sort of marks that could represent some sort of, you know, physical touching of some variety. There was a technical win to be had. Not that you necessarily even needed that, because you even got from Johnny Depp's own mouth the concept that emotional, verbal, non-physical violence can at times be worse than the physical. That's what he described about his mother. So, like, nothing's better than the confession from your own mouth, as they say. So she had a technical win to be had. And up until like day 2, I was like, oh, okay, there's potential here. And then she starts coming along, and not only is it violence, it is the most grievous violence we've ever heard of, you know, basically ever. It is being thrashed up against the wall. My particular favorite was when she says, I'm lying on the table. He's on top of me and just wailing on me. But it's okay, because the next day I went on a talk show. And even though I was walking on glass, the day after that, I did ballet.
Yeah.
With no apparent marks on your body of any variety, mind you, that I can see. So, I mean, this is where like she shot herself in the case, and where like as a lawyer or versus a juror, it might be interesting, because as a lawyer on sort of the technical wins, there might be something there on the Court of Appeals, maybe, because maybe they can fix this, although I wouldn't bank on it at any stretch. But as a juror at this point, because I'm the finder of fact, I'm not going to give her a technical win, even if I could somehow find it. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, maybe he did one thing one time, maybe even a physical thing one time. I'm, at least as fact finder, in my fact finder role, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to want you to try to justify like basically anything you said with actual evidence, and you can't do it. And I'm like, you basically set the ground rules. This is not on me. This is on you. You set the universe you want me to play in. You want me to play in this universe where he has to be this incredibly physically abusive guy. Okay, I accept your terms. Make it work.
The other problem is there's a lot of good for Amber in her statements on the technical defense, but once you go down the road of describing the abuse in explicit detail, I think the statements start to work against her as well. Because when she's saying, I'm standing up against domestic violence, you cannot be, I would say, even a co-participant in the domestic violence. This cannot be a back and forth. And I don't see how any juror reasonably sitting there would be able to say this is not a back and forth. But if I'm picking the person to represent violence against women, like, then I can't have the person who's on recording screaming, I didn't punch you, I just hit you, you pussy. Like,
I'll also
like
go
that...
tell the world, tell them if they believe you. Like, yeah. Well, that's great news.
Right. So I can't that, like, those statements start to work against her in that way. Again, when you present the case in this manner, and I think it's been just a bunch of misfires on that. And I think you're probably right, Sean. I think it's a client management issue, but man, they needed to work way harder on clamping down that issue.
I don't know that should be managed.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, all they had to do was grab a bottle and say, "You're going to do what we say, you bitch."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I assume she's on the same level of Alec Baldwin. Like, you know, how do you tell Alec Baldwin, like, no, listen here, you know, fuckface, you're not going to go talk to the press. Like, you're just going to shut up. I'm trying to keep you out of trouble. I mean, that's the kind of, you have to explain it to them like that, because they're dunderheads. You know, Amber doesn't get it. I mean, you'd have to explain it like she's 5, and I assume after about 2 minutes, she's screaming and trashing your office.
I have more faith in the 5-year-old to be able to hold it together at this point.
I think it's hard to think somebody that's been going through all this and probably does have some frustrations, and somebody who was a jerk to her and she wants to get back to her. And I get all that, but yeah, that's the lawyer's job, right? That's what we're supposed to do, is explain. I understand all that. I understand how hard this may sound, but if you say all this stuff that we can't corroborate, even if it's true, they may think you're a liar. And if they start to think you're a liar about one thing, then it's more likely you're a liar about other things. So let's try to stick to the things. Like, I realize you say he beat you to a bloody pulp all the time, but let's just talk about, here's this picture you have with bruises on your face. How did you get these bruises? Let's explain to the jury how you got these bruises right
I got
here.
these bruises from him punching me over and over on a table. No, you didn't.
Yeah, it's like,
Try
well,
again.
not these bruises. We're talking about these dark circles under your eyes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you got to show them the evidence sometimes.
Yes.
Say, let's just explain how you got this.
Yes.
That's it. That's
And
it. Because it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
A well placed punch, even a open handed hit to around the eye area, you'll bruise up. So just that's all we need is to know when he hits you, right? For this picture, just this one.
All
And
the
no
time,
bottles, please.
Rob, I'm sure in family law cases, I don't envy you, but that you say stuff like, listen, I realize all this stuff happens, but we have to talk about what we can prove. We have to do it all the time in our case. I realize that I'm not calling you a liar. I realize this all may be true, but let's talk about what we can actually prove. And your words are not enough. That's what I hear myself saying all the time. Your words are not enough, right? You can't just say, oh, I lost all this work. Or in my cases where we have lost wages and they say, I was going to be the president one day of this company. It's like, you probably weren't. So let's just talk about what you actually made when you got hurt and you couldn't work for a month. You know, it's like you got to actually talk about what you can prove, not just what you think or what you believe or what you say is true, but what can you prove? And with her, it seems like it's none of what she's saying. That's what I'm having a hard time getting over.
Yeah, and I think, in addition to that, what's going to prove, but I've had to ask people before, clients, imagine you're on the jury and you hear this story. What do you think?
And you don't know you.
Yeah, and don't tell me you believe it 100% because I know you wouldn't. Some other guy walks in off the street and tells you this story. I mean, do you believe it? You're probably not going to. So we need to be able to explain why they should. And, why should they believe you when it looks like you painted on mascara all over your face to make it look like you have a broken nose? Like, why was it going to look that way? Why does it look that way? Why didn't you go to the hospital? You're going to have to provide an answer for that, because if you don't, that's going to be a problem. Like, you have to provide those answers. You have to provide the full story.
And then in
Sean,
every
I need
one
your
of
clients.
What's that?
I need your clients.
Well, I'm not saying it works. I'm not saying it works. I explain it sometimes, like talking to a brick wall, but it's the reason why I drink.
And maybe they did.
In every one of these instances, what I also need is I need pictures and video that you may have of like the next day when you do a major appearance. Like, I just need those though, like just in case maybe that happened the next day after you allegedly were brutalized. That like, or
okay, who did the makeup, the magic makeup? Who did it? Let's talk to them.
Oh no, we know. She's on the list.
That's
so we also have the hairdresser, and we have a phone that has 85,000 images, and only these, like 10 that show any bruising.
That's great.
Yeah, she testifies that she has a broken nose too, but there's no diagnosis or medical record. So how do you know you have a broken nose?
Well, she only has a concierge nurse that's with her 24/7 that she could go to at any moment. I mean, how would there possibly be a medical record?
And they're constantly,
she's employed by Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I love that concussion protocol over the phone. I don't know how you do that.
The ACLU just looks awful here. They obviously are in on this. They just saw it as a grift. They're using her as a front man to get money and exposure, and they don't check anything, and they're in whole hog. They're all the way in. Yeah, he's a horrible person. Let's just trash somebody for our own profit. It's really despicable. She's doing it for roles. They're doing it for exposure. They do not come out well. I don't know if nothing ever seems to backfire in the ACLU, but the time has come. It was a once proud organization that's become a grift.
Yeah.
The end.
I agree, but I think people don't go after the ACLU because every judge on the bench still respects the ACLU for what they were. And I think that you'd have a really rough time actually bringing them to task in a courtroom.
Yes.
So, Nick, also with what you're saying, doesn't it line up that with your concierge nurse and doctor, right? If Johnny Depp, with what we're saying, he grabbed me by the shoulder one day and threw me on the bed, that's how I got this bruise. He headbutted me one day, that's how I got this bruise. And maybe he slapped me around a couple other times. I did not want to tell the doctors and nurses about those things. But when it comes to rape and forcing me oral sex and cavity searches and beating me to a bloody pulp, you would tell your nurse and doctor those things. That's the other thing with her taking it to this level is the no medical documentation. Now, I broke my nose I think you can say you broke your nose and didn't go to the doctor. Like, I mean, whatever. But in reality, all of this stuff is just too much of a coincidence that you didn't tell a single medical professional that you had at your fingertips any of this stuff ever until the article and the lawsuit and all that started happening.
And again, yes, some of these injuries should have been grievous. Like I know what you're saying with the broken nose. So I was at a winter camp with my kid, and a pretty big kid was coming down the sledding hill, right? And they had snow tubes. And my job was to divert the kids from going into the forest. So because the path kind of curved. So you had to sit down there and kind of just punch the bottom of the tube as it came down. This kid's 14 and outweighed me. His face hit mine, and I thought I was dead first. But then for like days, my nose and my cheek, I was like, did I break something? But even I eventually went to the doctor. I'm like, can you just check this? Because like I'm in serious pain here. But no, I did.
Did you puff up or anything like that?
Did what? I was. No, cause he mostly hit here. Thank good. Like I think that's why I didn't break my nose, but I got a little bit. But no, I didn't swell up too bad. But if I had not gone to my doctor, I probably could have like gone around saying, yeah, I think I broke my nose. But it wouldn't like have shown really bad. But
yeah, you might have had a hairline fracture of your orbital, but you know, but you're not claiming that to people. That's
right,
different.
Right.
No, you're not testifying that I broke my. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah,
you're not suing this kid.
Well, yet.
Come in with your neck brace on. Look what you did to me,
dude. I was like, man, you're a big kid.
You can't even testify to that, Mike. In some cases, that's a great point. You can't even testify that. Like, I can't just go testify that I broke my shoulder.
Yeah,
I can't go do that. Like, they wouldn't let a lay person testify to that. And like, I'm thinking in my case, I'm like, yeah, you're right. So you can't just say I broke this if there's nothing to actually corroborate that.
Yeah, it's a mess. Here we got a couple chats. Axel says Brits are definitely not on Herd's team. My wife never agrees with me in anything, and she too thinks that Herd is a manipulative sociopath. And then Homar 33311 says, did any of the shrinks that Amber had sessions with test her for psycho/sociopathy? Psychopathy, sociopathy.
Probably, but those are definitely not on anyone's witness list.
Yeah.
those were immediately shredded.
She had the one clinician who doesn't believe in diagnoses at all. Like he just doesn't do them, right? Like that was one of her treating head doctors was, because they said he didn't diagnose. And then on Cross is like, but he doesn't diagnose anything ever, right? Like he doesn't believe in diagnosis. He just believes in therapy. And it was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess. It's like, well, that's pretty important, I would think. So why you don't have a diagnosis?
It's a nice fact.
How did you guys buy the Herd doctor at all? Like, did she do anything for you? Because for me, I was like, this seems like a weaselly way to get a whole bunch of testimony in without having cross-exam on any of it.
Yeah, no.
That's what it was. It was.
I think the whole thing could be objected to as hearsay.
She was a DV advocate, basically testifying.
Yeah,
that was awful.
That's what it came off as.
I don't understand her attitude on the first day when she was there, when she was on direct by her own side, and she has this attitude like she can't be believed that she's being asked questions. Like,
can't
why
I
am I here?
Read my notes?
Why am I here? Why am I here? Why are you asking me questions? Like, I'm paying you? I didn't. It was a weird thing to behold.
Well, and her testimony brings up, I think, the biggest flaw that I've seen in Amber Heard's their legal strategy here. Don't put her on next. That was the dumbest call I think that you could have made. You had the DV, you had her testify. She was basically an Amber proxy, laid out all the allegations. Now you put out all the rest of the bricks, you lay that foundation. And then even if your strategy, or if you have a client that's being difficult, you can go back to your client and say, I know you want to get up there and say all these grand things. Look at what's been presented. This is all we have. You need to limit the scope of your testimony.
Yeah.
It was so dumb for them to put her on this early, because it took everything that DV, the therapist, could have proven out the window.
And not only that, they're now also running the risk of any future witnesses they put on to contradict the only witness, the star witness, who has the ability to sit in that courtroom and listen to everybody. Because every other witness they're going to be putting on starting now after Amber Heard gets off the stand, they're all sequestered. they don't know what the other witnesses have been saying.
Rob, I get what you're saying, but I think you have to get her up sooner rather than later, because if you don't, you have her up towards the end, and she's gonna get lit up. I mean, it's gonna look like one of those videos of like, Pearl Harbor. They are just going to shoot her to pieces, and
they're not going to
That's what I'm
now.
hoping for.
Well, I think they're going to now. Yeah, sure. But I'd like to get that out of the way. I don't want the ending thing in the juror's mind is her literally getting just blown into a million pieces.
Yeah,
because that's a critical problem, because you can't say like, oh, pretend you didn't see this. Let's talk to Whitney and Rocky and whoever the hell else you're going to throw up there. Let's talk to Makeup Lady. You can get them now and kind of get it out of their mind.
I'd like some testimony corroborating some of her story, because so far it's just her. So anything, I don't, even if it's slight, just one incident, somebody corroborating something, and then maybe save some other people after. But I want her to be able to just dovetail on an independent witness and say this is true, just the way they said.
They need the flight attendants.
I don't know if they have that. I don't know that they have that.
If they don't have the flight attendants,
start her at the end of this week. Don't let her testimony come with a week break in between.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake.
Yes, that part I agree with. I agree with that part.
It would have been great for Heard if Heard's testimony was credible and powerful.
Yeah.
Like if she was accomplishing all the things, then that week the jury would just be sitting there going, "We hate Depp so much, and we're just seething." And when they came back to cross-examine, that cross-examination would have had a real hard time putting a dent in that.
I agree, and they believe her, and it's locked in. We try to do that all the time, where we'll end a day, so the day before with that great witness, like the first day, if we can get our client up there and they love our client, it could be over day one of a 10-day trial. Yep. And that's, I think, maybe if you believe Amber Heard and you think she's going to do a good job, then it makes sense to call her before. But how it went, it feels like they're going to have a week to just eviscerate her testimony.
Yeah, so I had said earlier earlier in the trial that if they're going to call Amber early, it's because, in my opinion, they would do that for the reason Sean is saying. You think she's going to look bad on the stand. Either they're going to light her up, or, they've spent a lot of time with this woman. They know how she presents. They've done her depositions. They've watched videos about her. They know she's not going to come across super likable. So you get the facts you need on the case out of the witness so that you can bring those facts on close. And then you hope that her testimony kind of the nasty bits of it kind of fade away in the memory with everybody else that comes in. But if that's the case, they should have had her on before the doctor, in my opinion. Like, I get the point of the doctor, but if you're going to have Amber come in, like, be like, we're going to put her on first. She's the biggest witness. She's the one you need to hear about. And then also we're going to get her out before that break because I think the break is a disaster for them.
Yeah,
I just want to say
her testimony.
I just want to say, hey, Joe, Nick's agreeing with me. She should have gone first.
I originally said, to be fair, that Whitney should have gone first and Amber should have gone last in an ideal sort of situation with clients that are normally within the normal margins of predictability and believability, that you would put Whitney on and Amber on and bookend the two most credible abuse stories that they have as first and last. I think that's how you should have done it. But if she's a disaster on the stand, then that's and Whitney apparently.
I haven't thought about this. I'm gonna be curious how Whitney handles that whole stare debacle. That's the event right there.
Well, she didn't finish her depo, so I don't know if she gets to testify at all.
She's gonna have to explain the stairs. She's gonna have to know about the bottle. She's gonna have to know about Russia.
That's right.
That's all new.
No, I think she's barred. I don't know if that for certain, but
all of them are going to have to.
I think
the reports are all
there's a pending motion.
Testify.
Okay.
And I will say that I've had this come up before as well, and have done depots the night during the trial. Finished discovery depots.
I've heard of those.
So judges can say, okay, Whitney, you've got to sit for your discovery depot during this week. Maybe it could literally be happening this week. And get the discovery depot, get a rush transcript, and now you can testify next week. It's literally happened. It's only happened for experts for me, because everybody else you can usually force to, but not the experts. But it sucks, but it happens sometimes.
I would be really, really salty if I were Johnny Depp's lawyer.
Yeah, it sucks. How do you
And
Have
prep
you
that?
read some of the
Illinois,
pleadings?
we
These
do
guys
that
hate
on
each
an
other.
evidence step during trial, but there is no way. Supreme Court Rule 213, it's over. Discovery is closed for that would be an F2 witness. Well, like you guys care about my
Go ahead.
contribution. Sorry.
Oh no, not an F2
No, we
witness.
do.
Oh no.
But Mike,
an F2 witness. it's
F5
closed.
witnesses are the
No
really
way.
dangerous
Yes.
ones, though.
Yes.
but what about if they give you the option? Because here's the things that are always at play. If they give you the option as a plaintiff's lawyer, if you want this trial date, you've got to deal with this crap.
Yep.
That's what I think happened with the metadata.
Yeah.
I don't know because I didn't follow the motions and all that crap that happened pre-trial. But it's
That's
like,
plausible.
you guys want this date? Do you ever want to get to trial? Then let's
That's
do
plausible.
it. And you'll figure out how you get Whitney's testimony. If we're ever going to get metadata, you'll get a negative inference where you can say she didn't give it to me. It could be fake or whatever. But you got to pick you got to take your medicine sometimes and say, I want to get this case tried.
Yep.
And they're going to delay it till the cows come home on the defense side most of the time. And so you got to eat you got to eat this week break. Because how many times do you think this judge has a 6-week trial docket, Rob? How often does this judge have a 6-week trial docket open? Exactly. So the judge said, you can't use this as an issue for an appeal. We're just eating it this week. I have to go to my judicial conference. And it sucks for everybody, but they're like, I'll waive it because we want to get the case to trial.
Yep.
That's what we don't know all that stuff.
No,
that's
that
happening
does
in
make
trial.
sense. I could just see that as an agreement behind the scenes, but just under the normal course, it wouldn't happen. But I could definitely see that scenario.
I'm going with Rob's, who's holding up the big no on that.
Yeah.
Especially post-COVID. It's like not
they're
happening.
they're probably still playing catch up in Fairfax, I would imagine.
We are.
Big time,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, so Rob, if you had something to go to trial today, like when do you think you'd get scheduled in for like a 4-day trial, like a normal trial?
4-day trial, probably looking for, what is it, May? Maybe May of next year.
Nick, I just scheduled a personal injury trial. It's property damage and stuff. It's scheduled for the end of May next year, 5 days.
Yeah.
It's a long way out.
It's insane. The damage that COVID did was nuts. Let's see. Kay's Thought Police says Turd could have killed Depp if that bottle hit his neck. Yeah. Well, luckily, if the bottle had hit his neck, that would have hurt a lot, but it probably wouldn't have shattered. So he might have been better off in the long run. I don't know. Ugh. Slaglust says Nick is officially worse than Legal Eagle now. Inspiring all these lawyer channels has brought a blight upon us all. For shame.
I second that.
Tanner Andrzejczyk says Johnny Depp's story feels grounded in reality. Amber Heard's stories are incomprehensible. She is a storyteller and a bad one at that. Well, to play a little bit of counter argument though, Johnny Depp is a very good storyteller in a weird way because his stories drone and meander, but you kind of don't mind because of the way he does it. And I think mostly just because it's Johnny Depp. And everybody on the jury knew Johnny Depp beforehand. I think that's a huge advantage. First of all, one that explains why they got through jury selection so quickly, that the defense team just said, well, everybody's going to know him, so we're not going to bother with that. But like him sitting up there meandering through those stories, I'm like, okay, can we get to something meaty here? But at the same time, it's like his manner of speaking is it's almost melodic and engaging, like an Ent, right? From Lord of the Rings. It's like, why is this taking so long? But I kind of really want to hear what this old wizened tree has to say. Is very weird. Let's see.
You're going to get super chats asking me about ants.
Yeah.
Yes. How do you feel, Runkle?
Have you known any of them from seedlings? That's what we need to know. Tara Reinhardt, the jury is more men. The broken glass under her weight against ceramic tile would either embed or roll when dragged over it. She loosened her grip from her own neck. Johnny Depp is being called as her witness. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk. One of the things I wanted to talk about. That's coming up apparently in the next 2 weeks. They are planning to call Johnny Depp back to the stand as a witness for the defense. Any thoughts on that?
Danger.
Is that confirmed?
It's reported.
It's reported.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah,
Because
why not?
I thought they had
Yeah.
agreement about this.
Oh,
Well, so the agreement I heard during the motion to strike is what they call it, I think, was that they weren't going to call Amber in their case in chief because the defense promised to call Amber during their case in chief, but they can absolutely call Johnny, especially with the counterclaim. That's what if I was Johnny's lawyers, I would say, and Rob, it could be different there. If anybody, feel free to correct me, but if they locally, it's different. But I don't think they can recall him and then ask him about the stuff they've already crossed him on. It would have to be new info, and I would think it would have to be toward the counterclaim. Did you say these things? Did you say she was a lawyer? Did you instruct your PR team to push that narrative to try to prove that defamation claim on the countersuit? I would hope it's limited to that, because they already had their opportunity to question him and cross him on all the other stuff.
Yeah, it's got to be. There's no way they're letting them go back and recross him, and it's a dangerous call to put him up again, because he can.
I think it's he what just all you have to do is look at the fact that media headlines were supporting Johnny Depp during his testimony, and it's like I know the PR team's been working really hard over the week, because especially with New York Post, who is their friend, you can tell. Because New York Post has been running pretty much exclusively anti-Johnny stories, or they seem to be the only place really pushing anti-Johnny stories in print that I've seen. But when he was on the stand, you could not, like, it was hard to find anybody speaking negatively about him, and a whole lot of positive stuff. Like, wow, we're now hearing the full story. All of those types of pieces were coming out. I think pulling him back on the stand is I think it's a big risk.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
do it.
It's also going to eat up your time that you don't have much left of.
Well, he also got to hear, so he depending on how careful you are with questioning, but he can shoot back at things she testified to, because he sat through all of it.
And if they call him on direct, it's all open ended.
Well, and no, because they can treat him adverse. But obviously that led me to a point I was gonna make a point. That actually brings up a nuanced point in the Virginia Rules of Evidence. So he's an adverse witness, which means you can ask him leading questions. But on cross-examination, Johnny Depp's attorneys get to ask leading questions. They get to ask leading questions.
Right. That's the advantage.
That's a huge advantage. I mean, imagine looking at Johnny Depp and Vasquez gets up and says, hey, don't you want to say this? And he just goes, blah, 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 blah.
And not only that, but he kicked their ass on cross-examination before. There's no reason to think that he's going to do anything other than just charm his way through cross-examination again.
Well,
I mean,
so Rob, I have a question. Do you think Judge, I don't know how you pronounce her name, do you think she would immediately, like, if you went up, Your Honor, can we treat this witness as hostile? Or do you think they would have to let Johnny display the hostility? It's already built in your guys' rules?
It's built into the rules. So the second that you stand up, an adverse party opponent, adverse party opponent, you get to go at him.
The other thing is that not only did Johnny kick their ass in cross-examination, he took forever doing it.
Yep.
It's just going to run out their clock being charming and meandering.
But I don't know. I mean, that whole clock thing is going to be really interesting, because I don't know how she does it, Rob. Maybe you have more insight again. But how does she do it? Like, does it count as their time the whole time Johnny's on the stand? It counts as the defense time this time?
No. So basically, if they're on for direct, that's Johnny's time. Cross-examination is Amber Heard's time.
Okay.
That's how that plays.
Yeah.
And then if they call Johnny in their case in chief, them calling Johnny is their time.
Right.
Johnny's cross of Johnny is her time.
What about during sidebars, objections, all that? Is that
sidebars on their neutral time? They're not counted against either party. Now, the funny thing is, people were asking me, she's not going to cut off a witness. She will. I have in this courthouse, I have had a judge quite literally
That's awesome.
Going into closing arguments. The judge said, you have this much time for closing arguments. I was the plaintiff in the case, gave my closing argument. This was I was the defendant in the case. A plaintiff gave his closing argument. I gave my counter, and the judge looks at the plaintiff's counsel and says, you used all of your time in your close. I'm not going to give you a rebuttal. As a courtesy, I'm going to give you 4 minutes. And as an attorney, you get 4 minutes. What do you do other than load a gun and put it in your mouth?
You don't even introduce yourself in 4 minutes, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
Oh God, what a disaster!
Jeez.
I love it though. I love this judge, and it's one of the reasons that makes me hope that this judge is going to be doing discovery in the middle of the trial, because this doesn't seem like the kind of judge is going to go out of her way when you do things in a timely manner to say, "Oh, okay, we can do it now."
On balance, I think the judge is fine, but I still am critical of her objection rulings. I mean, some of these things are just weird. I'm like, oh my God.
Absolutely.
Rob, can you help us out with something? with what if any like prefix that goes on every sentence?
Is that in
an
your
actual?
guys' rules?
Is there a
No.
rule on that?
No,
way.
no. So the best one I can remember is was it the Reeves case or the Edgecombe case? One of those cases where the attorney was making the comment of
It was Reeves. It was yeah, it was
Your Honor,
Reeves.
I said yes or no. I said
Agree or disagree.
Agree or disagree. It's the same thing. And I'm listening to Elaine say this. And I'm going, that doesn't make it not leading. That doesn't make it not leading.
Oh, it's driving me nuts.
So
She
bad.
actually has points where she's like, I said what if any? Like that's her
Literally.
response
Yeah,
to the objection.
that's
I'm
it.
just
Like that's not the answer to the objection. The
not
answer is simply it's not leading, Your Honor. The question does not suggest the answer because there are multiple possible answers. That's
What
I
if
mean
any-
that's the I said what if any. Like, okay, look, I said Big Mac.
What if
David,
any What if any bruising do you see in this circle I just drew? It's like what?
that was pretty bad. I would have objected when they had those circles up there. I mean, I almost feel like I would have objected and had them remove the circles before she continued because I thought that was like just them drawing those circles on there before the questioning about the bruises is a little bit much for me.
It's
Well, but they
bothered,
needed
it's
them
bothered me
because,
more than
because
that.
the bruises were suspect.
Right.
I
I
mean,
didn't
it was
even
just
see
like
them.
a slight discoloration. You're like, yeah, here. Yeah. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know what to refer to.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
the other
asking for a
hilarious
sidebar.
thing-
I'm asking for a sidebar. She has done that every time. She's done that the entire time. And even though it's an objectionable question, the judge sustains it, it still tells the jury this is where I'm going with this. I would ask for a sidebar to get her instructed. You gotta stop this crap.
Well, can they get a jury instruction to give her testimony less weight because she's been so thoroughly led?
Can they get an automatic appeal? I mean, that's getting risky.
No, I mean a jury. Well, yeah, I guess here the remedy for leading your witness excessively like that is they'll tell the jury, listen, there was a lot of leading going on. You need to decide if that means that her evidence is worth less because maybe it came from the lawyer and not from the witness.
How bad does it have to be to get there?
Not as bad as this.
Wow, really?
Well, stuff like the bruising where she was going and she goes, oh, well, I'm sorry. I'll rephrase the question. What if any injuries do you have? And she draws another circle.
Yeah, I'm like,
And I'm like, whoa.
strike the picture at that point. Like that seems to be the acceptable remedy to me is we can't use this picture. She couldn't identify bruising on her own. It's no longer probative. Now it's prejudicial. Strike the picture. Again, Rob, like you said, it's sidebar. Go straight up to the judge.
The place where I'm pretty sure you would get some corrective action is with the bottle, because Amber Heard had described it hitting her pubic bone repeatedly. But then her lawyer gets up and says, just so the record is clear, that penetrated you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, that needed to come from the witness, not from the lawyer.
Yeah.
And that's a place where you might actually get here you'd get potentially an instruction saying, maybe you need to decide if that happened or not.
David Yakovlev says, can Whitney still testify in court if she walked out of her depot and didn't return? We kind of covered that one. Industry Rajan says, first gen South Indian psychologist here. Watch the stereotypes, guys.
She's cool. She's cool.
No, people tend to know I'm joking. If you don't, I'm very joking. Lots of variables. Example, first gen is different from immigrant parents and regionally different too. And Abjit says, I'm Indian and I'm on Johnny Depp's side. Very cool. Yeah. This is a place of crass jokes against everybody and all peoples. So
I can't imagine what they said about your nose in the chat when you were telling that story, Nick.
Well, let me read you this super chat from Joseph Mack.
I had to close my eyes for you.
Nick, regarding the 14-year-old that ran into your nose, I had no concern for your nose. My concern was for that poor child that ran into that huge nose. Thanks for the
comedic
content.
timing. I mean, just the comedic timing of that is so great.
Here we go. Let me see. We've got Drew Jensen. If I start seeing, wait, nope, that's a different one. I'll get to all. I will get to all the non-Johnny Depp ones a little bit later. Ryan English says, if you're a juror, what happens if the judge says you can't leave and you say F you and leave anyway?
Well,
As
we'll
a
find
lawyer
you-
or a witness?
Witness,
As
a juror,
As a
juror.
juror was the question. We'll find you in contempt, and you're probably going to
Yep.
spend some time in pokey.
Yeah.
You're
But
better
that
off
jail,
just
that
making
jail
yourself
is
throw
not a
up.
pretty jail. That is the
No.
county jail, county lockup, and it
Yeah.
smells.
We
Really?
have alternates and handcuffs.
Yeah,
We actually don't need
Two
you.
things
your
we
courthouse
don't
looks
like.
so nice. You think that jail would be decent?
Oh no!
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so gentlemen, I'm looking for an opinion. I haven't seen the super chat. It may be in here, but I've seen this bandied about. Let's say hypothetically, Amber Heard comes down with COVID or goes on a 72-day hold conveniently on Monday because of a mental breakdown, having to come back to appear. We've got a strict judge schedule. What happens in that instance?
Rob, you go
Reschedule the
last because you may have the
testimony.
actual answer.
Put on the other witnesses and put
Yeah.
it back on.
What's the present the rest of your case? Keep
What else do
moving.
you have?
I think the
Yeah.
only remedy would have to be, I don't know that how you do this, but you'd say, okay, we're going to strike all of Amber Heard's testimony and we're going to start over just with the deposition. So ignore everything you heard on Thursday. And now she's an unavailable witness. And let's go from there. It
So-
seems like the right answer.
So discounting,
I
they
think
can
you'd
agree.
say, can we take the rest of the testimony via Zoom for one and do a hybrid?
That too.
Absolutely fuck not.
That'd be
Yeah.
the first thing you'd
Exactly,
try.
yes.
What you'd ask.
Right.
So we
You
had,
don't seem congested at all, Miss Heard.
we had
I am very sick, Your Honor.
Yes.
we've had
How
one
many
trial
volumes
where
are you
the
on?
defendant in a PI case and a personal injury case, the defendant didn't show up the day of trial. We're all sitting there, the
Ooh.
adjusters for the insurance companies there, all the witnesses there, we're there, judges there. I'm setting up my opening, and she just doesn't show up. So we're calling her. They go to her house. The Geico adjusters go to her house, bang on her door. She's like puking and whatever because she's anxious about the trial. She says she's not coming. So we have a retired judge who's sitting in for this case and refuses to do anything about it, basically. So we file our motion for sanctions, do all this stuff. We take her deposition to memorialize it in case she does it again for trial. And the judge reserves ruling on sanctions, does nothing, and we show up for the second trial. That's what happens here.
Oh.
Literally,
Oof.
absolutely nothing
Wow.
happened because they just didn't want to show up for trial, and who cares about the plaintiff in these cases? But Rob, let's hear what happens. Hopefully, in a better jurisdiction that holds people's feet to the fire
I
because it's
don't
so
know.
miserable.
The
With a
question would be
6-week trial.
if Amber shows up and if there's actual documentation, because the judge's first concern is going to be, is this legit or is
Yeah.
this bullshit?
Let's assume
I
it's
just-
legit. He said she got COVID or whatever.
Or I think the
it's
prevailing
COVID?
theory would be 72-hour hold. So she
Yeah.
has nervous breakdown, says she's going to self-harm,
Yeah.
and goes to 72-hour Baker Act
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
But
like
we
full
assume
on
Oh,
full on apocalypse now.
Bring on your next
72
witness and
hours.
we'll resume Amber
That's
at some point, I guess.
72 hours. That's
Yeah.
what I'm doing. Next witness, then we're bringing
Yep.
Amber back, and if Amber doesn't come back, and she has a doctor come in and testify, the judge is going to put the doctor to the hot coals.
Yep.
If not, I'm throwing out all of Amber's testimony, and I would argue that the doctor that evaluated her might go out too. I honestly don't know. I can't see an appropriate remedy.
Would
I don't
they
see the
default?
judge
If I'm
continuing
Johnny's
this.
attorney, I say we're going to default her and let's set this thing for prove up. What are we
That's kind of what
She's
I'm
not here.
Well,
Trial's
exactly.
today.
wondering.
Yeah.
That's
is
what
if
would
the judge
happen
will
to
go
the
that far.
soothsayer Alex Jones.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Rob, would they
I was gonna say,
potentially
what if she
just
says-
declare a mistrial and make Amber pay for all the attorney's fees and costs and have to come try the case
There's
again?
no way
know
I'm
what?
declaring a
That
mistrial. The Court
actually
of
would
Appeals
be-
can overrule me.
That's happened here, not to me,
That would
but
be
that's
pretty.
happened
That
to
would
some
be
other
pretty
people.
painful
Yeah,
because
to make her
they're
pay
not
all the
going to
fees
appeal
and
that.
costs,
Yeah.
and then
God,
come
that'd
do
be
it all
Including
over
court
again.
time.
She didn't have
Yeah.
it.
What if she says she's on a 72-hour hold and then she does a live show so that we can see in real time that she's perfectly
Amber,
fine?
You
have
can
to see
come
the
on my
metadata
show,
first.
Amber. Come tell your story, Amber. You and Eve Barlow can come.
There's no contempt sanction fast enough. I'm having the deputies drive to wherever that's being taped and yoinking you out for an order to show cause, which you will fail.
I'm picturing like the
let's
stick with
see.
a loop on it, like they use for snakes. Just
Yeah. Soup.
Okay, so Lucia asked, we answered this one, but there's a rumor that Amber Heard is going to call Johnny Depp to the stand again. Is that possible? Yes. And if so, how would that work?
I still think that was somebody like from Law and Crime or somebody like, hey,
Does it
here's
no
a wacky
shit?
zany thing that could happen that would generate clicks.
No, I read an article today.
You're
It
trusting
was
the
either
article?
today or yesterday from talking about how Whitney's expected to testify. Johnny Depp's ex, who I can't remember, is expected to testify, and they're going to call Johnny Depp back. I mean, we can assume that Amber's PR team is running this out there, right? Like, she has a PR team that is talking to the press, and I personally think that PR teams for both parties should be violative of the judge's order for no social media interaction or no media interaction. But I mean, they're running with it, and nobody seems to mind, because I guess who's going to object if you're both doing it?
Well, let's assume it is Amber Heard's PR team that's putting it out there that Whitney is going to testify, and let's assume that they actually know, or at least their lawyers know for an absolute fact, that she can't. So they're putting out there this expectation, and then when she's denied, it's just another way to say, "Oh, look, she's being denied the ability to take her story." So it makes total sense, even if they know that she can't testify. To say she will.
Then I'm the judge, and I am going to instruct the courtroom and the jury in that moment that this is what was happening. The PR team ran this. They violated the court's no gag order. They knew at that time that I forget her name, Whitney, could not testify when they ran this PR story. You are allowed to infer from that whatever you wish.
There is the other possibility that we talked about, that it's entirely possible that they finished up Whitney's deposition this week prior to that story running, and now they're able to run it. That is a possibility too. We'll see.
So, hey,
what's up, Nate?
Hey, everybody. Hey, no, I'm here. I was finding the mute button. What's going on?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. My girl Amber Heard, she's so believable, right? We all believe her. Believe Amber. Oh man, I've been listening while I'm driving, and everything you guys have been saying is so on point. I'm just waiting for the fireworks next week. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. Oh, and one thing, potentially criminal. You had me in the back. I'm in the back. I'm like, I'm going to finally be on Potentially Criminal's channel. I'm in the back. He just never saw me.
You were in the back? I honest to God did not see you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I put a message in a private chat like, hello.
Oh, no, I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
It was great, but I was like, I'm trapped in the back.
I'm glad you dropped me a message, Nate, because the way I have my windows set up, like I have my windows small, and so I have to scroll down manually, and I could not see your icon down there at all. So I'm glad
no. If you go to they just updated this maybe 2 weeks ago. If you go to the settings, there's a ding that happens when a new guest comes in. So it's go to the settings and you'll see it. It says play audible noise when new guest arrives.
Okay, I'll look into that as I'm testing out all the other streaming software starting tomorrow, because I'm so sick of this stupid software.
Oh yeah,
find something that works. Let me know.
Nate, I need you to message me because I need to figure that out too. Because you're
not
the first person I missed.
Wait, what's StreamYard?
StreamYard is the software that we're on right now.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
I
okay.
have no idea how to do YouTube.
I don't understand sarcasm. Sorry.
I don't know how to do YouTube, so it's a fair question.
Yes, we're all spur.
Tara Rayner says her behavioral diagnosis makes it impossible for Amber Heard to avoid embellishment. When she talks about Johnny Depp not being there, she saw black. Johnny said something similar to her in one of the audio tapes. I thought I thought that was really interesting testimony when she looked in his face and she saw black. I felt like I was watching like Insidious #6 or whatever, listening to that testimony. What did you guys think about that? That was weird to me.
That's how people write books. That's not how victims testify. I've never seen a victim like start getting into flavor, like flowery metaphor. Like it just, sometimes you'll get the adrenaline response where your vision narrows down to like a small focus thing. But that's like super focus on a small area because it's a threat. You don't have this like, I couldn't see Johnny anymore. It's like, no, this is so, she looks like no victim I've ever seen. She looks like several liars I've seen, but when you do criminal law, you see victims of domestic violence and sexual violence and so forth. And, there's all sorts of presentations. There's a range of behaviors. And this is completely out of it.
I'm going to say one thing. The most convincing thing to me that she's lying is that we're in the wokest woke world, and the media has stopped calling her a quote unquote victim and has
Yep.
stopped saying they believe her story. That is I think that's a huge win for Johnny, because before it was we believe everything she says, she's an abuser. Now it's kind of like, well, we need to hear more first. So I think
That is
that's
a big
huge
admission
win
by
right now. Yeah.
omission.
Yeah, that's been apparent and very, very bad for her.
Yeah, I mean, they don't come out and announce; they just creep away slowly. You know,
Yeah.
like hope you don't remember all the things we said. You know,
Sherry Law says, "How is it the ping pong table seems only separated in the middle with paddles still neatly placed on top?" Well, you see, after the body slamming occurred and none of the stuff actually got swept up, someone did go, "Oh, these paddles belong up on the table, so we gotta get that done."
I mean, that testimony is worse than that. The testimony is that he picks her up like Superman and flies with her across the room and lands on top of her.
Yeah, it's
which leaves no marks of any variety.
Was he in any pro wrestling movies? Because let's see. Too Lazy says, Rob, for the people saying the bed could have had a crack already, can you please explain how the color of the wood wouldn't be consistent? Enjoyed your vid and look forward to more content. Thank you.
I'm not sure that's the case. The reason I decided that the bed didn't have a crack in it already is that I looked back through all the UK testimony and the depositions. If that bed had a fault in it, that would have been testified to by Johnny's team or by Amber's team to try and explain away why the bed would have broken. It didn't come up in any of it. And if you look at the bed, the rest of the big timbers, there's no faults, there's no structural damage. It's perfectly intact.
Was this I haven't really looked into the bed. I didn't think much. I just thought her testimony was ludicrous. I remember seeing the picture of the part shaved off on peeled off on the edge. Does this look like a very expensive, nice piece of hardwood furniture, or is it particle board? I don't think
it's hardwood, but those timbers are 10.5 or 12 inches big. These are bigger than any railroad ties. You're not finding those. Those are super specialty. And the sheer size of them, to think that something is going to have enough force to create that small little crack ain't going to happen. I mean, that's splintering off with a pry.
Yeah, that was very weird. Hey, what's up, Natalie?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Kind of. We can hear the road.
Hi, Natalie.
Hey, okay. If you can only kind of hear me, I'm driving, so I'll try to shut my mouth in. But hey, everybody.
Hey,
welcome to the stream. Hey, I haven't talked to you since this trial started. How are you processing this thing? What are your thoughts on it?
So my thoughts are, after reviewing all of her testimony thus far in Virginia, and then I sat down with Nate the lawyer and a few other folks and reviewed all of her written statements in the UK trial and all of her testimony in the UK trial. She's contradicting herself. And as a trial lawyer, and I'm talking about Amber Heard, obviously, as a trial lawyer, you look for contradictions, and the contradictions are so vast and on such important issues that I can only conclude that she's not telling the truth.
Yeah. I have one very important question for you right now, though. Is Joe Good Logic, is his wife driving you around, or are you actually operating the vehicle?
She doesn't want to play.
She's gone. That's okay. It's just a running joke on the channel. See, Goody.
Hey, Nick, I gotta take off. Guys, have a great day.
All right, brother.
Have a nice night, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Later, Sean.
Nate, I'll get you. Nate, one day I'll get you on. I promise.
All right, I'm holding you to that.
Always good to have you, Sean. And Law Talk with Mike. I'll talk to you later. Nice to meet you. So C Goody says, Nick, she claimed that she was porked by the fat end of the bottle. I actually didn't take that from her testimony.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
No, what she's
her testimony is the narrow end, and then she was hitting the word expands.
Yeah, and that expansion was what she felt hitting against her, and that I got the impression that she didn't really process in real time that she was being penetrated, and that was something she realized later was the testimony. Oh, there goes Natalie.
Do you guys remember a movie called Beer Fest?
Yes.
Vaguely.
I remember how about the ping pong paddle, how it went in the wrong way. That's what that story reminded me of. I was like, okay, the ping pong paddle shouldn't have gone in that way.
Let's see. Here we go. Welcome back, Natalie. Okay, we're not hearing you. I don't know if you have it on mute on your end. We'll keep going.
I think it's the cops that pulled her over. Are you on a live stream right now? We know a good lawyer.
Natasha Van Gelder says, "Didn't she wreck herself back in in the UK though? She's just repeating what she said there. Actually, no. Like that's been one of the big problems for her. Is she's not repeating. Well, actually, I guess we don't know because the UK testimony was behind closed doors, right? Was that ever released?
No, Natalie got these statements because they released the written statements. So that's what Natalie was going over on her stream. She was comparing her written statements because she wrote out all the stuff and she was comparing it to what she said, and it was like horrible different. The differences were almost like we couldn't even figure out if they were the same story. They were like two different stories. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the bottle incident is brand new, like super new within the past couple weeks new. That is something that was never heard before. So,
well, even if you compare the deposition testimony for the divorce versus the testimony she gave now, she added so many new facts to the story. Like she like for the steer pushing thing, she added the fact that Johnny raised his hand to swing at the sister. That wasn't in there before. She added so it was like you would suspect the farther away from the event, the less likely you're to remember fine details. But it seems like for her, the closer she was to the event, she didn't remember anything. And now all of a sudden she remembers all these fine details all of a sudden. So it's insane.
Charles League says, I'm confused. Wasn't Rottenborn's opening statement both that the article wasn't about Johnny and also that Johnny did abuse her? Sounds like they want to have both options. I don't know about they want to have both options. I think the client really wanted the abuse to go back and forth on that one. Because again, as my opinion as an attorney, if I'm presented with this case, I want to stick as close to the defamation doesn't apply here as possible. When you know these facts, when you have this set of facts, when you know these recordings exist with her talking about domestic violence, I do not want to get into a back and forth about who is beating who, because I don't want that question in the mind of the jury at all. And if Johnny Depp's team wanted to take it there, without you taking it there, I think you get to then attack a little bit more about them trying to cloud the issue of this is what happened. These are true statements, or what parts of them cannot be determined as true, or just Amber's opinion. She was a victim of domestic violence. Her opinion is that she's a victim of domestic violence, and she did stand up against that, and she was criticized by it, and she thought that criticism was unfair, and that once you're there and you focus on that, I think
that's a
you
winnable
can
case.
And I think you can educate a jury properly on defamation law to the point of making that out. But once you get into the weeds on the abuse, now you got a liar potentially on your hands.
Yep.
If they'd run the case you're telling me, I'd say Depp's chances were like 10%.
Yeah.
But her testimony it keeps pushing. It keeps pushing things towards Depp's side. It's
And we've got a super chat here from Jack Murphy. He says, everyone on the panel looks scrumptious, sexy. Thank you, Jack. Always happy to have you and that wonderful beard here.
Is he watching the same thing I am?
Look, Jack has certain preferences.
Okay.
Mo says, devil's advocate, there is a possibility that the ballet video is prior to Australia. Danish Girl started filming in February and wrapped in April.
Fair enough.
That is possible. I guess if it comes up, they'll have to make that argument. QB, if they make a movie about Johnny and Amber, Johnny should be played by James Franco and Amber could be played by 4 or 5 different actresses.
No. Amber should be played by Jesse Smollett.
Kaomi, I don't know how to pronounce that. Kaohimi. Whatever. Can we please stop calling language violence? Violence is violence. UFC, war, etc. What happened to sticks and stones? I get calling it verbal abuse, but it's not violence. Well, yeah, I think that's an important distinction because I think this is what I was talking about earlier with the broadness of those statements coming back against her. When you say, I am the face of domestic violence, people don't picture a woman being yelled at and called a cunt as domestic violence. They picture, for right or wrong, they picture a guy putting his fist up against her face. They picture her being knocked down, being kicked in the stomach. They picture her being thrown against a wall, having her head smashed into a tile shower or something like that. That's what they picture. They picture physical brutality. And I think that when you start to make the case, verbal violence is violence too. Like, yeah. And I think you brought up a great point that Johnny Depp's own admission is that the verbal abuse can be worse than the physical abuse. But when your statement is, I'm the picture of domestic violence, that's not what anybody who reads that line is thinking of. And I think for me, that pokes just a little hole in that, in the boat. That's a bad analogy, but that's what I'm going with.
And the other thing is, and I hate to say it, but on the insults, I suspect a lot of people are going to be looking at her going, I might have said worse.
Well, you at the right spot, Emily?
What's up, Emily?
Nick and I have been trying to connect for like a week, and I've been just out. So I'm happy to have a minute to come over and say hello.
Well, I'm glad you
everybody's
are.
just been talking about how it's a sausage fest here, so we're glad to change that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
I played men's water polo in high school.
So it's not changing that much, is what you're telling us? Okay, all right. Sorry, people. Sorry, chat.
I live in a frat house as well. Like I have female cats, 2 sons, and a husband. So
I love it.
Not unfamiliar territory.
We're good to go.
I would make jokes about what the D stands for in my name, but it's too early in the day for that.
This is still the daytime show, Emily. Cursey words are fully encouraged.
I mean, I got curse word jarred on Hoag's stream. I felt very bad. He's like, "This is family friendly." I'm like, "What's up, motherfuckers?" And he's like,
we just got to swap in Hoag for any of the bad words.
Well, one of the earliest super chats was from a 12th grade government class. So just so you know,
they've heard worse. I mean, I haven't. Can I tell you this story real quick? My 8th grader comes home from school yesterday and he's like, so we had like a field day and such kid went to the hospital. I'm like, oh no. And I'm assuming like a broken collarbone or a broken like wrist or something. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, well, he choked on a bottle cap. I'm like, what? And he's like, a water bottle cap. I'm like, what? He's like, well, he was simulating, he was simulating a thing with the bottle and he choked on the bottle cap. And I'm like, oh my God. That's what happened in junior high yesterday in my neck of the woods. Is that, how do you explain that to your parents? It's like, how did you get a plastic water bottle cap stuck in your throat to the point where the EMTs had to come and take you to the hospital to remove the bottle cap from your throat? How do you explain that to your parents?
Well, you see, I was watching this program on my computer called Pornhub, and then I don't know what I was just trying to. No.
You find out how much money Jack Murphy makes on his, his order, and you just say, well, it might work out. It won't be so bad.
Is Jack Murphy the guy that Nick talks about a lot?
Yeah.
Yes. What are you talking about? I never mentioned him at all. He was just a humble super chatter, Emily. This is innocent. This is innocent. So, Emily,
hi.
Okay. I wanted to talk to you about a specific thing, and it was because you were digging into this, and this was the PR guy for Amber Heard that she replaced the other PR team with this new guy. He's already had a little drama, but now he's got a lot of drama and like deleted his social media. Can you tell us what's going on?
His company website is down. All of his social medias are down. He previously, this is why I started digging into it. I have been covering the Ryan Kavanaugh Hollywood producer versus H3H3 defamation suits because Hollywood doesn't understand how communities work and are really mad that H3's community brigaded the app reviews in the App Store. And so they sued for tortious interference. And the judge is like, there's no contract with potential users of this app. You haven't proven anything. And it got dismissed on an anti-slap. Then another case was filed on defamation grounds for Ethan Klein reporting on an article in Variety saying the article in Variety says. And so that case is pending an anti-slap. And I think he'll probably win that as well.
Yeah, that seems like a win.
But Ryan,
could they file it in Virginia? Is that possible?
No, they did. So Ryan Kavanaugh has gone off on social media about this, and And this PR guy is Ryan Kavanaugh's previous PR guy. So he worked for Ryan Kavanaugh's now bankrupt and defunct previous company, Relativity Media. So he's very much entrenched in kind of the Hollywood bro club with Ryan Kavanaugh, who you may or may not know famously looks like Harvey Weinstein. H3 Podcast set up a website called Does Ryan Kavanaugh Look Like Harvey Weinstein to troll Ryan Kavanaugh. He also tried to have that website taken down as part of this lawsuit, because now when you Google Ryan Kavanaugh, this website comes up first and has it's a very well done troll. If you're going to troll someone on the internet,
that's a good one.
It is a masterclass in it. So
God, why does Ethan Klein have to be such a douche everywhere else? Because that's funny.
It's actually very funny. Like the level of trolling, and Ryan Kavanaugh keeps trying to come for his community, and his community's like, oh, what we're not going to do is this, and brigaded the app reviews for the Triller app, because Ryan Kavanaugh is now the largest investor / part owner of Triller.
Okay, so this is all related back to the Triller thing.
All related to Triller Fight Club.
They are so butthurt over that 2-minute clip that they showed. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, that's what started it all. They tried to sue for all kinds of copyright stuff that's still pending in federal court, and then so Ethan, being Ethan, started trolling the owner of the app, and so did his community, and that's where all these defamation suits that aren't defamation suits came from. So as I'm looking into the PR guy, I'm like, oh my, his last business was dealing with Relativity Media, and this Ryan Kavanaugh is pretty entrenched in old school Hollywood. So I'm not surprised that this is the PR guy entrenched in old school Hollywood. And then allegations started coming forward on social media that he had been inappropriate with women he had met on a dating app and gotten booted off the dating app. I've never even heard of Raya as a dating app, but apparently I've been married for fuck ever because I'm old. So apparently it's a dating app. And he got kicked off the dating app allegedly because of this inappropriate behavior with women. Kind of well, I took you to a nice dinner. I don't understand why this isn't going any further. And harassing and
I bought you a $50 steak. Now open the legs.
Or the mouth. I mean, there's some of those too.
That's a $30 steak, Emily. Come on.
We're going to have a conversation in the hours about which takes more energy. We will have that conversation later. I don't think you're ready for that chat just yet. It's too early in the day.
Oh, we need to have a night show on that one.
We also need Branka with no tie for that one.
Yep.
But this is, as I'm digging into this PR guy, I'm like, oh, he is really entrenched in that old world Hollywood connections. I am not surprised he's deeply connected to a lot of these media outlets because he has worked within this realm of Hollywood with Relativity Media and other known companies. I'm sure he had quite a lot to do with Relativity. And then as Relativity let him go, it seems like he sued them. There was a settlement with them. So there's a lot of backstory with this PR guy before the allegations. And again, the allegations are coming up on Instagram. There's been a few of them, not a ton of them, but for a crisis PR guy who says he is a crisis PR guy, and just a few allegations and screenshots arise from years ago, to delete all of the socials is what raised my eyebrow. Because if it was a few allegations, and this happens when people come into the spotlight, you'll see allegations and you don't really know if it's true or not. Screenshots can be faked. It was the deleting of the social medias for me that I started looking into his background, and then seeing this connection to Relativity and a bunch of stuff that went down there that seemed odd. He had broken off from Relativity with a partner, and it was in all of the industry magazines, Deadline and all of these, that he and this partner were starting their own PR firm. The female partner is nowhere to be seen anymore. And that was just a year and a half ago. So it's very, very interesting. Not just seeing these allegations come up when we know who he had worked for previously and some of the circles that he ran in, but also seeing that his business seems to have gone through a couple iterations in just a few short years here. And how he got in touch with Amber Heard is very interesting to me. Like, how in the middle of trial did that connection even get made?
Well, do you think maybe that Amber was looking for a new PR team and she misread for crisis PR to PR team in crisis? Like, maybe she just misunderstood what she was finding.
It's possible. It definitely, I mean, there's been very few moments where I feel bad for her in this whole thing. I felt bad coming in because I knew she didn't want, or her legal team was trying to keep this from being public. They were fighting against the cameras in the courtroom. So I knew she didn't want all this public. And so I'm like, I get it. And these are hard allegations for Johnny Depp to win. And then you see her testify and you're like, oh, this is why you need a PR team that's used to dealing with Hollywood, because this is a mess. And you have to be ready to pick up the mess. And the internet turning, like the mainstream media turning on TikTok and YouTube seems to be the narrative they're running with because they can't talk about her testimony, which is bizarre. It's not. It's for the course with PR, but.
Well, I never felt sorry for her. I thought that the reason she didn't want it being on camera was just because of how she knows how she looks on camera. Like when she's not when she's not on a Hollywood set, when she's not going 2 minutes at a time, she knows what happens. And I mean, that clip of her being annoyed by the door is enough for me to say, we don't want cameras in the courtroom.
It's been, I think her testimony's been a mess. I think Rottenborn's opening I thought was very good. Focus on the defamation, focus on the headline that she didn't write. You've got I think the claims on the print article are very, very weak. I don't see a road to winning. But on the title of the publication, the media publication, I think that they would have had a much better case if she hadn't made those allegations on the stand at all and said these were not about Johnny Depp. It's just the headline. I didn't write the headline, and separate from it and make no allegations of the essay stuff with the bottle. Make no allegations of that at all. Leave it go and be like, those aren't even talking about him because she mentions in the article experiences in college. And I think most of a jury would have written the headline off to college, or at least could have. And now she makes those allegations and it's.
Yep. I think they're working really hard to make this unwinnable case very winnable for Johnny Depp.
Unforced errors with her unforced errors.
Yep. Let's see. Talenseer says, I wonder about the damage control the other side has to be going through. Ethically, a lawyer has to defend their client, so we have to assume Rottenborn et al. Won't be disbarred. Is Amber Heard an unmanageable client? I mean, I think Elaine maybe is insane, but I don't see any reason for any of these lawyers to not be barred attorneys. And I would say that as much as Rottenborn, it's easy to make him into a villain for entertainment purposes of watching the stream. I think he's doing a very good job with what he's got. Like Emily just said, his opening statement was pretty clean. Elaine's statement was the one that I was like, where are you? Yes. Why are you dropping spaghetti all over my plate? I ordered something else. That was very, very weird. And as much as like, I think Johnny won the interactions with him on cross. I mean, you're cross-examining Johnny Depp. You're cross-examining someone who is objectively likable by a vast swath of people. And you're just a lawyer. Like, you're not going to win that 9 times out of 10.
Because the jury might not like him being snarky. It might feel flippant and it might feel arrogant and it might feel very Hollywood.
Yeah. I read your insider article, Emily. Okay. You
can't talk to me verified on Twitter. Like, but I think it's possible that it turns off a jury being like, you know what, the lawyer's trying to cross-examine you. There's no need for all this snappiness. It could go against him. I think the internet loved it. I just don't know how a jury will read it. Some jurors might be like, could you take this seriously? Especially with the candy on the desk and some of the other stuff.
Was that candy? It looked like a pile of pills.
It's like a mix.
It's jelly beans and like gummy bears. There's one of the photographers been getting
jelly beans, gummy bears, Prozac.
That's what it looks like to me.
Who knows what you grab?
Close your eyes.
Johnny Depp is doing pills at the table and Amber Heard's doing coke on the stand. Like that. Is that where we're at now with the?
He's got a high tolerance. Okay? There's been evidence to that.
I seriously, like, some of those look like little cat, like gel caps and stuff. I'm like, man, Johnny's got the morning regimen out on the table for display. But then Ben Chu reaches over and grabs one and starts eating it. I'm like, well, okay, maybe not.
Out of his pocket in the morning. Like, I've never seen a judge allow candy on counsel table.
Not just open like that. Maybe in a cup or something.
I saw a judge in the court. I saw it once on Judge Miles Lane, which is definitely a true courtroom that's real. the guy opened his briefcase and pulled out a donut and started eating it. Miles Lane almost murdered him from the stand. That was funny. Tara Rayner.
Done with jelly beans in trial. I'll tell you what.
Tara Rayner says her TRO had 3 events and not one mentioned a bottle. Her court bruise is a zit. In my opinion, she has more victims in her past. How has she not met her match? The tapes make me want to intro myself to her. I do think, okay. Are we at the point?
Her name under Amber Heard Depp, not on with Depp is her last name, which I hadn't seen her use anywhere else, which was interesting.
Yeah. Are we at the point though where Johnny Depp's team can bring up her domestic violence charge on Cross yet? Like, or her arrest?
I don't think so.
It's just so
think
so unreliable because it's just an accusation that the victim, the difference between the Kate Moss stuff and her, or even the Barkin, the girl, I guess that's going to testify that Johnny Depp threw something at her. It's like, if she's willing to come testify that Johnny Depp threw something at her, that's why they can call her. It doesn't seem like Amber's ex wants to come testify that Amber abused her. So they'd be bringing in an arrest, an accusation that was unfounded by the victim and no charges and conviction. It's like, can you really ever get into that? Like, how do you ever get into that?
Where they don't even need to get into it at all. I think they have enough to work with.
I would try to, but
if they want to, I think they can get it in. I've got an avenue that I think they can get it in because of how she testified to it. She testified to it basically saying that I thought in my head Kate Moss, and that leads to the question on Cross basically saying, so you, based on this, had the impression that because Johnny, who had a history of physical abuse, you heard that, you thought of that, and that gave you the impression that he was going to commit an act of physical abuse in the present.
So if you were a judge, you'd let that in based on, I thought Kate Moss, and all of a sudden I got between.
I mean,
I think that fell flat.
But I think something different.
You also had her stating that what was it?
Dr. Hughes is the only way I think she gets it in.
It's never
Dr. Hughes.
Woman. That's testified to. It's never, I know it's never okay to hit a man. I know it's never okay to hit a woman. And I know a relationship doesn't come back from that. How do you know? Have you been in a relationship where people
But she could say no, though. But how
I like that, yeah.
But there's no evidence that she hit anybody. That's the problem. What evidence do you bring in to impeach her?
Now, if there were witnesses at the airport.
The witnesses and the police.
Well, sure. If you have a witness that says that, sure. I'm talking about bringing in the arrest. You're never bringing in the arrest.
I think the arrest is hard to get in, but I think what Emily said makes sense though. I can see an avenue. There's avenues here.
Wasn't the arrest
with the doctor?
What wasn't the arrest from like it wasn't a report. It was a cop witnessed what he perceived to be domestic violence and arrested, and then the other person, the alleged victim, didn't want to go through with the case. I mean, to me, I think that comes in.
Just not the arrest. I don't think you're ever getting an arrest in. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I think Dr. Hughes' testimony was the most misleading to the jury, which is why I would if I was the judge, that's why I would let them bring out something that Amber has something in her past, because the garbage in, garbage out from Dr. Hughes saying no prior, never anything for it. So therefore she's never could possibly be an abuser now. She has to be a victim. That's misleading to the jury. So that's the whole interest of justice argument, that if you're going to put in stuff that's just false, we have to correct the record somehow. And then I don't know all the stuff. All I know about this case is what we've heard in trial.
Yeah,
I've tried to do that purposely as much as I could. So I don't know exactly what all is the surroundings of her arrest, except that there was no conviction and the victim doesn't want to participate. So you're not getting that arrest in.
But when it came to the Dr. Hughes was asked specifically what were things that go into someone being an abuser.
Yes.
She said specifically a history of other events and things of that nature.
Exactly.
That to me is, and she said that on direct. So that to me was opening up the door, because that would let me ask the question. Okay, well, in your opinion, I don't know why they didn't. Maybe the judge didn't allow it, but I thought that was the door being opened up like nonsense. But
he tried to, he fumbled it away. He asked the question, she gave a bad answer, and the judge was like, "You got to live with that answer." Is what
I don't know if he fumbled it away. I wish I could have been at that sidebar more than anything in the world to hear what was going on, because the Ben Chu's reaction when that testimony came up, the Kate Moss thing came up, that made me even more curious what was said at that sidebar, because he was so pumped that it was like the judge at that sidebar said, I'm not going to allow it right now.
Anything
but if one more
else,
thing comes up, and
yes,
he's just
yes.
like, boom, got it.
Yes, it had to
Yeah.
be something like that.
He was very excited.
Because that like any one of the things we've mentioned are questionable, but I look at it like those buckets at the water park, you know, the big giant ones that fill up over time. It's like, this thing's got to be tumped over at some point. Like, this is ridiculous how much has come in without this piece of testimony coming in. And I think the moment and I know they're they're chomping at the bit to get it in, because the moment you do, oh, by the way, she hit someone in public, there are
It's
witnesses,
over.
there's a police report about it.
Game over.
Like, how do you come back from that? Like, yeah. And it wasn't Johnny Depp. It was someone else. She purportedly unprovoked or whatever. So Geek Girl Amanda says, what do you guys think we'll get from Whitney? We've talked a little bit about Whitney's being able to come in or not. We've speculated on that, but assuming she comes in, I mean, I guess we're going to get that story.
Here's the better question.
The staircase.
If you were a juror sitting through this trial, what would you want to hear from Whitney? Because we're all going to guess based on, what her depo is, or part of her depo, I guess, and what we think, legally speaking, how we would use her as a witness. But if you're the jury, you got to expect Whitney's going to come back, Amber, and say, Johnny abused her all the time. I saw him abuse her. She got in front of us on the stairs. He was going to push me down the stairs. If she didn't step in, he was going to abuse me. That's what I would have to expect if I was a juror and her sister takes the stand.
And they got to worry that that's going to then open the door to that her friend making those statement with the prior inconsistent statements coming through, the letter that her friend wrote that says, you told us that this didn't happen effectively. Like, so
I just wonder if that's why she bailed on the rest of the depo, because she's like, I'm not going to perjure myself.
Something.
And I don't want to say it. I know, though, I got my Twitter thread on this was like, people are like, she was pregnant at the time. And I'm like, I get it.
It's the blue check. That's
pregnant.
what happened.
I mean,
I got to expect
that it might have been an actual legitimate health reason because of her pregnancy that she couldn't finish the depo. But then I'm seeing all the other court filings saying that the defense said they would fill up the rest of the depo time, that there wouldn't be enough depo time, and they still had questions. So I can't imagine the judge just lets it in without either limiting it or limiting the scope of her testimony to one thing. And how awkward that's going to be, because Heard's team has not been artful with understanding rules of evidence and direct examination and things. So I worry that limiting is going to be rough. Heard's team has been yelled at by the judge to tell the PR guy to knock off using his phone in court, to yell at the expert for not reading all of her notes, and then looking at them and going, so I just look down and look up.
That was
a mess.
You're a professional witness. Knock it off. Everybody knows you know what you're doing right now.
That was weird. That was
embarrassing.
weird how inexperienced she seemed as an expert witness. Shocked she couldn't just read her report into evidence.
She has a book. She has a book on being a fucking expert witness.
She teaches the bar, right? Didn't we get her PowerPoints in?
And judge it. It was appalling. And she's like, it's my cheat sheet. This shouldn't be a memory test. I'm like, have you testified before? Because memory test is a part of it.
Yeah, it literally all is a memory test. You're lucky you even get to refer to a note in the first place. Speaking of that, Steve K says, I love how Bredehoft called Dr. Loonbag Dr. Curry twice. Now, serious question. Does looking at the jury while giving testimony actually help? I think it can go both ways.
It depends. Yeah, it depends.
Have you seen the reporting out of court that the jurors have stopped looking at Amber Heard and have started
I've seen
elsewhere in
two
the court?
versions.
That's the
I've seen
worst
two versions.
indication you could ever have for your client.
What?
That's the worst.
But CNN was also reporting, and then another media channel was reporting that the jury appeared to be incredibly engaged and sympathetic towards her story. So I've heard two on the opposite end of this spectrum.
I guess
How do we
we'll see
fix
on
that,
Monday,
Rob? How do we fix that, Rob?
That sounds like the mainstream media. That sounds like the
DUI guy. Me and Runkle go and watch it in person.
I think that's how we fix it.
We'll report back once we find out.
I love it.
From the horse's mouth.
That's
I remember reading that headline, and I can't remember who wrote it, but I was like, oh wait, here we go. Is this it? No, That's not it. I remember like looking at who wrote it and going, "Yeah, okay, I expected that." So I don't remember who it was, but yeah, I've seen that headline. I was like, I cannot believe that anybody's actually engaged by this story. Like honestly, it is so ridiculous, and I have little faith in humanity as it is, but I mean even that was beyond me. Let's see. Nat JVS says, "Hello, gents." This is before Natalie and Emily joined. Thank you all. Question about the doxing of people like Tug, House Inhabit, Colonel Kurtz, etc. Could Amber Heard / Fartlow, Shane, the new PR guy, be culpable? Would it hurt her case? Plus, negative articles impress against LawTube? So there's a lot to unpack there. First of all,
Objection
so there,
compound. That's
okay. So let's take it one at a time. With the doxing, does the doxing come back on Amber Heard in any way? I don't really think it does personally.
How do you get it back to her directly?
Yeah, and because Eve Barlow's a non-party. I mean, she's friends with Amber Heard. It's like, yeah, but friends might do something without being told, without like some direct link. And I also think that from a plaintiff's perspective, focusing on that stuff is completely extraneous. And the jury's like, I don't care about that. Like, so that's a waste of time, in my opinion. The next is negative articles in the press about against LawTube. Have any of those happened?
Yeah, there's one from the Guardian and one from the Insider. But they're not. They
but the Insider also published Emily. So
yeah, where's this article from the Insider? Because I haven't seen this one.
I've been in a couple. The Insider article I didn't think was tremendously negative. A lot of them are running the narrative that people on the internet are mean and they're not taking this case seriously enough. The Guardian one was just disingenuous, and they kind of tried to throw Rob under the bus and be like, he is just proving it. But they're just generally mad that the internet is giving commentary and they don't have attention. It sounded like the Guardian article read like a temper tantrum.
I've seen like the stuff about TikTok and Instagram, and that stuff frankly is probably true because people are cutting a lot of this crap together and changing it and trying to make it seem like it says what it is. Nick, I don't know if you remember, but I talked about this on my channel, but when I was on with you and Amber Heard was testifying and she talked about how Johnny Depp, when he's with you, it feels like this or whatever. I'm like, I'm getting talented Mr. Ripley vibes. Then it spins out of control, not from anything I said, but like everybody's trying to say she quoted the exact movie, which is just frankly false. And it's just gone off a narrative of this stuff. And that is kind of like, if I was trying this case, I'd be annoyed. If like millions and millions and millions of people around the world were thinking that these TikTok stories are proving something, but streaming the trial and talking about it, you shouldn't be mad at that if they're just seeing what evidence comes in. And if somebody's doing a demonstration as to a picture that you showed how it couldn't happen like that, it's like that's different than cutting together and saying like, here's her on James Corden and here's her and look, her lips are this. And it's like, we have no idea what you're doing. And you guys could all be filtering it just like you're accusing her of doing it. So I think it is tough with some of the stuff. If you're doing it for entertainment and to laugh, fine. But to cancel somebody or act like it's proving truth or there's no way this trial could come out any other way because of a TikTok post it's tough. I think that's that's a tough look.
Critical thinking and commentary and questioning the evidence and why the testimony and evidence don't match is very different than having Katz recreate her testimony.
Exactly. And that's why I just would say I would see them separately. I don't know if people are seeing them the same. I don't take any offense if somebody says some of these TikTok stories are crazy. If they say lawyers shouldn't be talking about the law, it's like, okay.
One of the articles said that they were commenting on how interesting it was that there is the kind of unofficial reporting on the case. I'm like, well, who makes you official?
That's a good question. Yeah. That's a good question.
The official reporting. We've got, how many years of legal experience on LawTube talking about the case. And I don't need some 20-something, 30-something-year-old journalist being like, well, we're the official commentary. Not anymore. You're not.
Listen, take it easy on 30-somethings, okay? Take it easy on. I'm just kidding. But like the reporting,
I hate everybody with a 3 in their age.
The reporting, like I don't know definitions maybe of some of this stuff, but I don't consider myself, I'll just say, a reporter at all.
Same.
They're reporting who's going to be testifying next week. I'm listening to reports and we're discussing the reporting, but I'm not saying who's testifying. I don't know who's testifying. I can say as a juror who I would want to hear from, but that's not reporting. Like, I think that's weird how they are kind of missing the disconnect of all these people, at least in our country here in America, that have a judicial system like this, it's better if they understand how it works. And that's kind of the goal of, I feel like, what we're all doing is, here's how it works. Let's answer questions. You may not know a lawyer, which is the point of the name, which everybody makes fun of, which is cool. But, you know, like, you can ask questions so you can understand how this process works, not just listen to Business Insider or CNN about what's going on in the courtroom. That's, I think, where the disconnect is.
This is a money
some
issue.
of our
though.
channels.
This is
Plus, I was just gonna say, plus on some of our channels, you get dick jokes. Sorry, what Nate?
No, I said that's a money issue. This is a money issue. They see the rising tide and they see you guys kicking some behind with these live streams. They see the people are coming and they see we're getting information. And before, if you wanted to hear about it, you could only hear about it from a few sources. Look at the Kim Kardashian trial, for instance. Really, unless you were in there, or we really don't know what happened. We know they won, but we don't know at the detail of that. And that was just as those are just as big celebrities as we have here. But here you can see every single moment, so it democratizes it, and that's why they're saying reporting, because that's how they make their money. Reporting, and we're hurting that bottom line.
Look at how Law and Crime reacted. Like, so the timeline from Law and Crime was this: kicked their ass on Rittenhouse, outcovered them pretty much any other time up until this trial that either I or really anybody else who comments on anything, people are like, oh, we can go get analysis here. And at that time, Law and Crime was in the same tier of YouTube as the rest of us, because when any of the channels got shut down for Rittenhouse that weren't mainstream media, they were with us. They got shut down too. Come to this trial, Law and Crime is on a completely different level. It's not a level playing field. They're up there with Fox and CNN as a trusted source. And they had, just a reminder to anybody who doesn't know, they'd threatened to come after me on copyright. I laughed at them until they left. They promised. They struck Emily's channel. They told me that they would content ID claim every one of my streams that has Law and Crime footage in it. They have done 0 of them. Instead, what they did was they went straight to YouTube with their multi-channel network, and they paid for verified or trusted source status. And now, when no matter, like, Emily's over here kicking ass with like 46,000 people watching live.
67. We topped out at 67.
Okay, I haven't looked at Playboard. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah, I know. So she's got 67,000 people, and at the same time, Law and Crime is running 500,000. People are getting Law and Crime recommendations in their channels. They've never watched it before. It's
everywhere.
The media is scared of what's happening with independent commentary and analysis, because they can't do it. They can't afford to do what we do, because it would cost a fortune to hire lawyers to sit around for 8 hours a day talking about it. But if you let lawyers monetize and promote themselves, well, then suddenly it's self-valuable. So they're scared of this.
Overlords. Like, we get to decide with our audiences how we want to talk, what we want to talk about, how we want to do things. We don't have to be beholden to anyone else. And that's the big difference. They have to play by a different set of rules almost, because of their structure, where we get to build communities. I don't think there's anyone out there that has great love for Law and Crime that's like, oh my God, they're great. But what I see in the community, it's just another TV station. But what I see with commentators like us and others is that there are people who enjoy us. I know my audience. My audience knows me, and it's the same with all of you. We know our audiences, and that is much more powerful than just being able to click on to some information. And they can't create that. They'll never be able to create that, and that is going to be the disconnect in the coming years.
But also, too, I think we also have to realize the power that we did display against with Rittenhouse. That going into the Rittenhouse case, public perception was Rittenhouse was a white supremacist killer, right? That killed black people. And coming out of there, because of the coverage, everybody, I know even some of the people who want to cover were saying, hey, I thought that too, until I watched that stream, until I watched your coverage. Guess what? It was all made up. And now public perception about Rittenhouse is really 50-50. Before that, I don't think that would have happened. But that only happened because we reached so many people. And even with this trial, all of us together are reaching millions and millions of people. And now they can't just hide behind the veil of whatever the media filters to us. Now you can get it directly for yourself. And I think that's the power that people are looking for, because people are really looking for the facts. They're not looking for the spin. And we're giving them the facts.
And they're looking for someone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
the Guardian accidentally filtered a great deal of traffic to the person they wanted to try and
Of course they
quiet.
did.
Of course,
Yep.
dry sand effect.
Descriptions.
How is that video at 1 million yet, Rob? Your first video?
600,000, 600 something.
Enjoy it.
Nice.
It's
The
all
first video.
for your first YouTube video. Enjoy.
But yeah, and the other thing, this is something I've talked about a lot on my channel out of this context, but the way the media used to be before the I mean, even going into the early 1900s, was before there was television, before there was even broad radio, you had in every city tons of newspapers, tons of them, newspapers, pamphlets, tabloids, whatever they were. And those publications developed audiences, and they had writers that people would be, they would be communities. You'd go and buy this paper every single day because you would start to trust the coverage. You would start to trust the commentary. And then we had this weird consolidation with mass media where there was gatekeepers, and then we had, you know, a nationwide distribution of stuff like New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times. Those became these iconic places, these monoliths. But that's not how media has been for the majority of human history. And we're actually going back towards what media was, where, you know, you may, sure, the coverage may be biased, but I know they're biased because I know that person. And so I can still trust them to give an honest recount of how they perceive the events. And I know how they perceive it, so I can correct for that. Plus, I like this person. I like their style. It's no longer like just a channel. It's like you said, Emily, it's a community. And that is so much more powerful than what they have. And they're terrified of it. And we're going to see more of this. We're going to see a lot of money spends as YouTube in general and other places like it allow independent analysis, commentary, and or journalism to take place. All of the big bastions of it are going to be terrified because they don't have to lose to one person. They have to fight 50,000 different people, and they can't. You can't advertise against that many people.
And I'm seeing it on iTunes. So I love my podcast. I have a podcast, but iTunes has preferred corporate podcasting through these large podcast networks. So as an independent podcast, I will see my numbers and my rankings change, but then it won't get shifted in where it's visible in the App Store because the major news outlets have their news podcast placed with preference in iTunes. And so it's very interesting how hard they're fighting to make sure it's not a level playing field for independent content creators, truly. And independent.
By the way, you guys, I got to get going. Rob, I will see you on Sunday night.
We're good.
All right, guys.
We'll be in touch. Thanks for having me, Nick. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, buddy. See you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me too, Nick. I got to go eat dinner with the family. My wife is looking at me like that's the time to go. That's the time to go. So I'm like, all right, let me get out of here. I would never leave. I'll be at 6:45. Like, we're hungry. Well, I actually am about to end the stream anyway, even though there's
perfect timing,
a bunch of chats. So why don't I just wrap it up? Because I have to go on another show at 6 and I need 35 minutes to go feed my kids.
I love we've got another show. Where are you going after this?
I don't know if it's going to be broadcast live. I think it's pre-recorded, but it's a Libertarian Party of Minnesota guy who is having me on to talk libertarianism. So I'm going to do that. I will be back tonight. I will be talking Johnny Depp again. I believe I will have a media guest on, and we'll be talking about the media's coverage of it, but it's like from a good media person, not from a lame media person. So to all my panelists, thank you so much. To all the super chatters, I do apologize for not getting to all of the chats. You've been very generous. I will get through them tonight as I have my guests. We'll hit some of those chats, and then any that weren't read on stream, I will get them there. But that's what we've got. Any final words from my lovely panelists?
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for your time.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, guys. Thank you all for joining me. And to the chat, we'll see you soon. Have a good night. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-plaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an Ardbeg, a Balmore, a Lutbrook, spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now.